And we are live.
Welcome everybody to this week of OwO Aces Tier 2, Week 1. So this week we got a killer match, probably one of the most iconic or one of the most exciting matches in Overwatch Talk people were talking about. Eternal Eden versus Spellbound Tengus. I'll be your playable playcaster, Tempo.
And then I am joining Tempo here on color commentary. This is Toast, and yeah, it should be a great matchup here to start off the season.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, it's one of those, like, I mean, this match in general is one of the most talked about because of the potential rivalry coming from these past, for content now known as Eternal Eden players going to Spellbound. You know, it's something that people will be excited to see how they do against these new rising players. Plus Chubb, was there from last season also.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see. You do have this split kind of down the middle of half of old throwing for content going over to Spellbound, and then you have the other half here staying with Kenny on Eternally Feeding. So it'll see how well these players know each other inside and out, and see which team gets upper hand here early.
This is now my
And it's also going to be interesting to see some of these interesting swaps coming in for the side, I should say, for the side of Eternally Feeding, because if I remember correctly, Chubb was an off-team player. It seems like they're going to be playing flex support here tonight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know he did well on the off-tank last season, so coming in on this Moira here to start on Oasis will be interesting to see his role here.
Alright, both teams now charging in. Both of them running a Ryan Brawl comp here. The only difference is that Nat on that Batiste, and they're going to have a Zarya also of Honey Biscuits. Alright, first control. Going to Spellbound right now, both on point. Trying to push Eternally Feeding in this corner of this present moment. Eternally Feeding going to be running that Symmetra, so they have a teleporter strategy. They just need to get it set up and ready to go. Wall going to go up. But Bambi's gonna walk over to the right here, try to get away from the wall as he gets cornered. And control will be flipped for Spellbound Tengus.
Yeah, so that's interesting here by Eternally Feeding, not taking this immediate point control with the Lucio and with the Symmetra. I just think the overall sustain that the Baptiste provided along with the Reaper really gave him trouble here.
Cole gonna be built up by Chubb quite fast, and that's the one advantage about Moira. You can build up that Cole, it's so fast. Both tanks gonna trade for that high dude. Look at that, it's gonna guarantee it. Adina does. Distress finding 2 picks here. Eternally Feeding just thrown right back to their spawn doors.
Yeah, and I think right here the big pickup right there was Honey Biscuit there on the Zarya, really causing an issue for Eternally Feeding to get through this door here. They're playing off the Mei wall as well, but if you bubble that Reinhardt and speed him out with that Lucio, there's no real follow-up available for him, especially with a D.Va instead of a Zarya, but they do swap now to the Zarya on the side of Eternally Feeding.
Indeed, but the one flaw about without the D.Va, you're not going to be able to eat that damage that his Ant-Matrix up fast. That Ant-Matrix just melting the competition there away, getting a quick cleanup. And OwO, I think it's unfortunate if it staggered there, but nothing happens.
Yeah, that was definitely a quick fight there off that Baptiste window by Nat. Really smart play there. However, you do see a lot of ults here coming up on the side of Eternally Feeding. You have that Blizzard, you have that Sim Wall, you have the Shatter and Beat, and Chubb can build up another Moira Coalescence here in the next fight.
Most definitely, and however, it's going to be a bit difficult. But Nate finding Honey, that might be the start of a great team fight winning for Eternally Feeding. Nat does find Nate, but it's still looking in favor for Eternally, and there it is. Cat flip going in. Luxie just melting away Bambi. And Eternally Feeding, they will find cap point.
Yeah, so Eternally Feeding takes it here. It is one fight territory here for Spellbound. Great Blizzard there, as we do see though the stagger there by OwO onto Distress, gonna buy them probably 10 to 12 more %. A really strong fight there by Eternally Feeding. However though, on the side of Spellbound, you do have these ults coming back up pretty quickly. Nat can build up a window here pretty fast, and you're looking at probably 5-6 ults here, if not this fight, but next.
Indeed. Grab comes up from Honey, gonna clutch 2, but the beat is quite great from Oreo. Gonna allow them to live. Oh, unfortunate Distress! The high dude gonna get cancelled. Mira trying to turn things back around, only getting Lux Alvarez, but it's looking like it won't be enough. Chubb trying to keep the Fiends going here with the Cole, and looking like that Coalescence, though short lasting, is gonna be quite effective. Eternal Feeding alongside this wall from Lux are just gonna push back Spellbound backwards once again. And I gotta say, Toast, quite a bit of ults pop there from Eternally, but
Yeah, so a lot of ults popped on both sides there. However, Spellbound had the advantage going in on ult rotations here, but equally blew everything in the same comparison that Eternally Feeding did, so you will look at a pretty even fight going in here to probably last fight territory for both.
Looking quite so, especially with that 75 on the clock, about to hit the 79. Spellbound get onto the point, and we're gonna recap. But that's just Eternally Feeding, wait for the blood, wait for the shatter, Eye of the Tiger, Nate getting a Thorman, it looks like there. The Blizzard also gonna solidify that. Cap Flip just gonna go immediately back into favor, and it's looking like one team fight will be left for Spellbound Tengus after, of course, Gary dies here.
That was a very smart play there by Eternally Feeding. They saw the window by Nad, who they've gotten a lot of value off of this whole game. They pop the window, they get a pick, they just turn around, they just back up. Eternally Feeding does, lets that window run out, and then re-engages. Only gives away 25% there, and now has the momentum going into the last fight.
Okay, can anybody touch here? Almost like it will be distressed. Gets the punch and catches Lux. However, it's gonna be a bit more than that. Lux has turned everywhere, and the melted the supports away. Eternally Feeding. Looking quite confident now. Yes, Nate is pinned, but Bambi is there by himself. Honey, trying to get a last hurrah celebration grab to catch somebody or something, but it's nothing. And that's it. Looking like Gary does get a last minute touch, but Chump is just sucking away on that Moira. Nat not gonna have to return the last frog. And Distress gonna go to the move, that uppercut. Can Tengus even turn this? It's looking quite like no. Eternally Feeding gonna take the first map here.
Yeah, quickly flip that from what looked to be 100-0 there to off the back of a Blizzard by OwO, flipping that point pretty quickly and then bring it back here 195. I think the big difference right there though was just the rotations there by the side of Eternally Feeding. They really saw that a lot of the value coming from the comp here on the side of Spellbound was behind Nat's windows, so they just broke LOS of those, broke LOS of the grabs, and just really did not allow a lot of ult combos coming out, and just really rotated smartly there.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, like, you see a lot of teams, right? See what teams that just get ahead of themselves, but it's always Kenny's teams that just know how to play patient, play smart, and just wait out the ults like you saw Eternally Feeding did there. Alright, some swaps coming in. Eternally Feeding gonna go to a dive comp. They're gonna have the Lucio Moira, however, so they're probably trying to go by coalescence quite as fast as they can. While on the side of Spellbound, Honey gonna get off the Zarya, gonna be going to the D.Va, and we're gonna see a Pharmacy comp coming out.
Yeah, so Pharmacy is their win con here for sure. If they can keep the Pharah popped right there, which it looks like they're going to be able to, they should be able to roll over this comp with no hit scan counter on the side of Eternally Feeding.
Definitely so, and it's already affected them quite heavily, terribly. Early pick with Distress is going to be able to solidify that early cap from Spellbound Tengus.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see now if Eternally Feeding takes a different route here instead of going into that open corridor where the Pharah is going to get a lot of value, who pretty much has Barrage going into this fight. See if they choose a different path here and tries to dive that Soldier on high ground, forcing the Mercy off of Pharah, and then hopefully looking for a dive on that D.Va onto Pharah.
Look what that's going to be the case. Toasty, they're going bottom right side, dropping onto the Batiste actually. Nat getting so much pressure, they're taking down the hack from Lux. He's going to guarantee that. Eternally Feeding, collapsing now onto Bambi. He is by himself and he is gone for the count. No mech also from Honey, so no damage going to be eaten up. Like what's coming in. Maybe we're going to fall next, and that's looking quite solid fight. A team fight win for Eternally Feeding.
Yeah, and that's a good call there. Other than the Soldier, Baptiste not a bad dive target there. Forcing that out takes away a lot of your sustain that you have for your tank line, and you just only have that single target healing, and then Mercy has to choose, do I keep the Pharah up? Do I rotate to my tanks? What do you do? And it causes a lot of pressure on that Mercy player, so not a bad dive there. It gets them the point here pretty quickly.
19% being gained now, and Distress just poking behind. Gonna use a barrage, maybe catch the Winston, the Primal. Maybe they'll keep Nate up, however. Eternally Feeding, gonna just walk past that shadow. They're gonna struck that one off. Not gonna mind it at all. Great preparation there from Nate.
Yeah, I couldn't see. I don't know, was that barrage just completely soaked in between D-Matrix and the Primaling Winston? Because it looked like that should got high value. I believe Immort was also used right there. But then you had you had some decent hacks there by Luxie and whatnot. But I would maybe look to swap off the Pharah here now if I am Spellbound. The Eternally Feeding clearly has it scouted fairly well and is limiting the value it can get now going into these final fights.
I would have to agree, Toasty. That Pharah is looking like the value is not being fully capitalized on because of Eternal knowledge. But I guess they want to keep Mercy here and use that Falcon before they swap. And I wish that would be my guess at this moment.
I will not waste this opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another fight right there, built off of the pure dive here. 6-man is a very strong comp right now in this meta. You saw that really strong right now. And now, so you are going to get back to point, look for probably a swap here. To the Lucio here, which is great. And Distress goes on to this McCree to try to counter Yo-Yo here on the Tracer as well as the Sombra, so maybe hopefully some value here to stop this dive, but looking at the last fight territory here for Spellbound.
I feel like it is, and that beat might be the solidification of it. Nate gonna dive in alongside his D-Bot here, thinking out Nat. Backline almost in shambles, Bam gonna fall alongside it. It's looking like eternally feeding. Have just fully grasped this point in the palm of their hands. Bubble around the bomb. And indeed that's gonna be it. Eternally feeding gonna take the first round here, making this series 1-0.
Yeah, that was a really good flip there by Eternally Feeding. Looked like they were a little bit lost there going to the first couple fights against Spellbound on point 1 of Oasis, but then rotating here, late point 1, early point 2, really had some good answers there for the Pharah. Really kind of an unfortunate situation here for Honey Biscuit there on the Diva, as she was kind of tasked with a lot of jobs. Looked like they're on point 2. Did she have to deny the dive there by the Winston? Was she needing to peel and spy check for the Sombra? Did she have to try to poke out the Tracer? It seemed like for 3 or 4 fights they were kind of relying on her to be the only counter to a lot of the issues that Eternally Feeding was giving them, and then the good swaps came into the McCree, the Reaper late, but unfortunately once you give up 60% or so, the alt rotation just is not there, and it just puts a really hard fight for Spellbound to climb out of there.
Yeah, it's always, like you said, it's always that tough hole to climb once you have that alt rotation reset and all of that. Now, going to be going to map 2. The swap. I'm very curious what swaps we might potentially see from Spellbound. They have quite a stacked roster on the bench. You know, they have Rabbit just in case for the off tank. They still have Master Link, a astounding great DPS last season, also on the bench at this moment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the swaps. That was some good signs out of Eternally Feeding if they do want to keep this dive, as you do look at our hybrid and our assault, our escort maps for this series is really good for those 6-man plays. So if I'm Spellbound here going into map 2, I put in whoever I think can maybe play a Brig, can play a McCree. I would put in people that are really strong on those aspects. Do maybe run a counter dive yourself, but if Eternally Feeding showing strength on what is probably not a great dive map to start the series, rolling into map 2 here, which is a considerably stronger dive map, as you see High Ground is the name of the game once you get to Streets phase, specifically here on Hollywood, might pose some issues here. So it'd be interesting to see if they do any swaps there to counter this dive.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would imagine Bambi's he's the type of person to see a composition and get hard stuck and try to counter that. So I would imagine we would see those swaps coming out. At this moment, we're gonna have to wait a bit though, because there we go. So here comes the swaps. Meru and Distress are going to be staying in, so same DPS line. However, we are going to see the one and only Budweiser coming in for Nat.
Yeah, so it looks like the only real swap you have there is Budweiser in for Nat, which, in my opinion, you're swapping a Baptiste player for a Baptiste player. I don't know necessarily if that's going to fix a lot of the issues you have there. However, I don't know if maybe the hero pool opens up here for Distress, for Meru on these more open maps here, as you do have a lot of sight lines open up. Could pop some Widow, some Ashe, a lot of long-range hit-scan double sniper comps ran here. So I don't know if maybe these play stronger into hero pool, but it's shocking to me to see that the only swap coming out of them is a Baptiste player for a Baptiste player.
Yeah, my theory about what's going to happen here is actually potentially seeing Gary, a bomb buster here, going to be moved to the Baptiste wall, but goes to the Lucio instead. I mean, Gary was someone who performed extremely well in the Baptiste last season, and I would imagine that's Bambi's plan here.
And if that is the plan, that can work, but you do have those issues there that you do have a dive-centric point 2. Point 1 is very strong for dive as well, and if you put in someone who's going to specialize on Baptiste, put someone who's going to specialize on Lucio, you're pretty much hard committed to Brawl here. So I mean, if you run Brawl, you can run Brawl better than everybody and beat them. You just have to run it to perfection here against this dive comp. So I don't know, maybe we do see a flexible hero pull out a Bud that we aren't aware of, or out of Gary maybe here. But if you're looking at what you're saying, maybe that Baptiste and those Lucio plays coming in, I think you're pretty much just stuck on Brawl here. So they're going to have an uphill battle here if you have something highly mobile coming out of Eternally Feeding.
Indeed, it's gonna be, one may say, an uphill battle up the waterfall for Spellbound if they are locked to that. Alright, no swaps coming in just yet for Eternally Feeding. We're gonna have to wait probably a little bit longer before we get that, but however, we do already have them ready from Bandy. That man's top of things at this moment, it seems.
Yeah, and if you have this downtime here for Bambi, I think you just talk to your team here. You try to figure out, okay, you saw what they did map 1. You saw they were fairly flexible on the heroes they ran, but what gave you guys the most trouble? You went toe-to-toe with them in Brawl, and honestly won a lot of first point when they had a stronger Brawl and setup comp. So you have to be like, okay, so we know we can beat them in Brawl. What happens if they run this? What happens if they run that? What if they throw something weird out here at us? We need to be ready to adapt pretty quickly and know which one of those roles you want that adaptation to come up on. Are you going to fully adapt on your tank line? You're going to look at those full adaptations on your DPS. Because I believe if you look at last map, the only real swaps that came through is that Distress onto the Pharah, and then you had Honey Biscuit go from Zarya to Diva. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Meru stayed Reaper on both points. Distress may have played Doom and then Pharah, but I believe your support stayed the same, and I believe they kept the Rhine the whole time, except for obviously Ball at the end of Touch.
Yeah, Meru was on the Reaper for the majority of it. They were on the Soldier, however, at the beginning of point 2, but as you said, they were on that Reaper for quite a bit of time. It's gonna be interesting to see what they plan to extend now for the DPS line. If they're gonna do the Pharah again, or they're gonna try to do a bit of a slower poke comp of something like a Ashe or something. It's gonna be interesting to see what Spellbound has plans here coming into Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, this is the map to do it. I mean, these hybrid maps, obviously you have the assault aspect to start and the escort to finish, so you can see a very wide variety of heroes played on these points to success. So you can look at this playing into a more flexible DPS line's strength here. So if you do have Distress and Meru, who both can flex onto majority of roles in this DPS line, you could see some very strong things that do cause some issues. I mean, if you go back to, I believe, the TFC versus KD game earlier this week, you did see a wide variety of heroes out of both teams that had some success on this here at Hollywood. You had the Doom that was played really successfully. You had both Birds, Pharah and Echo played well. You had McCree, Ashe. I mean, you can play a large amount of heroes in here on the Hollywood phase. So although not a lot of swaps, if you do have that flexibility here on Spellbound, this could open up a whole new can of worms for Eternally Feeding to deal with.
It certainly can. Okay, and alright, swaps coming in for the side of Eternally Feeding. Chubb and it's going to be staying in alongside Nate and Nines and Lux. However, 2 swaps are coming in. Please going to be coming in onto the DPS, while Lindhurst, I hope I pronounced that correctly, will be going on to support taking place of Oreo Foxy.
Yeah, and if I am Spellbound Tengus, I'm looking at that right here and saying, okay, there's Sombra players still in, so dive is still very viable. That 6-man dive, you definitely have your Sombra player still in. You still have the Winston and Diva player in from last round. I know I'm a broken record with this, but it looks like dive could still be a very viable comp here, as you only had, I believe, the Lucio player and the Tracer player swapped out, which could be used for other heroes could be put in those dive scenarios for that.
Indeed. Potentially we could see that Brig instead of the Lucio coming in from Lindhurst, or we could maybe see a Mercy for the dive, try to amp up you on the DPS. It'll be interesting to see what they go with here. All right.
Yeah, it'll be definitely very interesting. I'm excited to see because I view Oasis and Hollywood as 2 completely different tempo-changing maps here. You do have momentum here on Eternally Feeding, but going into map 2 here, Spellbound Tengus puts the pedal to the metal, really asserts their dominance here, full holds Eternally Feeding, or steamrolls them on attack. One of the two could really set the tempo here going into Hanamura, which really could be a tempo-changing map. A lot of teams get mentally boomed going into 2CP, so this could be a tide changer here for Spellbound Tengus if they capitalize here on Hollywood.
Indeed. All right, entering in now, map 2, Hollywood, and like we've been saying, this could be a huge game changer for the side of Tengus when it comes to tempo and what they can run. And I'm very interested in seeing what they're going to do here coming in.
Yeah, I would, so on the attacking side here, as, unless I believe Red will be attacking first, correct? Or am I just blind? I think Red attacks first, right?
I believe so.
We'll just wait for 13 seconds here and see what happens here. But I would expect to see probably the Rhine comps come out of Spellbound Tengus first until forced to swap out of it, and then probably a little bit more mobility and flexibility here on the side of Eternally Feeding.
Indeed. Here we go, coming in. Red Gitterly, like you said, could be the attacking side. We are going to see the Pharah again, it looks like, coming in for the side of Spellbound. That's quite interesting. That's what their plan is in the wheelhouse at this moment. While on the side of Eternally Feeding, we're not going to see any dive. We're going to be seeing a barrier comp, looks like a slow poke comp coming in with that Orisa.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting comp here. Pharah can get a lot of value here, however, sightlines are going to be important. You get a Discord Orb put on you, whether you have Mercy Pocket or not. Discord Orb plus that Torb Turret plus 9 pressuring you out here with D-Matrix, which you have to assume that is majority of his job if they run Pharah, could mean Distress gets very little value here.
He's going to have to find a way for this slight entryway. Distress going to be going up. The Torb turret actually just pressure him a bit, but it won't be lasting long. Distress getting those double directs on the turret, take it out instantly. Chubb so low, but the Discord on Meru is even greater. And please, be able to take him out from the distance.
Yeah, and that's going to be, in my opinion, probably a reset here for Spellbound, is that takes a lot of the pressure, your range pressure away that would keep let the Pharah have open space. But it looks like they're going to push in anyways here without their soldier.
Indeed, they want to try to collapse in behind, get a splinter, it looks like, onto them. However, Eternally Feeding are just playing this nice and slow. Nate just touching the point when needed and backing into the cafe when he needs to get the heals. Immortality getting popped to keep up Nate for the time being. And Bambi, now knowing that, he's trying to push into the tank line. But building up the window, and it's looking like that will be quite grand. Please, is going to be melted instantly. Window coming in quite late from Linhardt, and it might be a little bit too late. Distress just going in back to back, taking him out. Chubb is still alive, however, but I don't think he'll be enough to turn this around for Eternally Feeding.
No, I don't think so, and obviously as he goes down right there, that's going to be a quick cap there for Eternally Feeding, for Spellbound, but you do see some swaps here onto that comp that gave trouble to Eternally Feed to Spellbound last point, as you do see a lot of high ground control aspects here coming out of Eternally Feeding. The swap onto Winston, swap onto Tracer, swap onto Sombra, swap onto Moira here. So it's interesting to see if Spellbound wants to keep pushing the issue here with this Pharah and with this team comp, or if they're going to have some swaps next fight as well.
I would imagine they are going to initially just push in with this and then swap after these ults. It will probably be a smart play as it's probably counted, but that pick from Distress. Beautiful opening from Spellbound at this moment. Lin by himself has a lot of mortality. He's taken out instantly. The shadow from Bambi gets assaulted by that quite instantly. We're gonna pop a attack visor. Gonna find 3 there. And Spellbound Tengus gonna be able to get around Saloon, it seems, at this moment.
Yeah, and we talked about this going into this map, that if they run the Pharah, that is their win con. They're doing it well. Only issue there with Spellbound Tengus right there is they had this big ult advantage because of the full swaps by Eternally Feeding, and they just blew everything besides Diva Bomb right there. I don't think Visor was needed. I'm not sure Valk was needed, but they still threw him anyway. Shatter probably wasn't either. So we're going to see if that overusage of ult bites them here, as you have some key ults coming up on the side of Eternally Feeding.
But hacked up right now. He's so low, not gonna have the access to the immortality, but just gets into the nick of time. Bomb comes in from Honey, and that one ult might be the game changer. When stalling on that point is blown up to smithereens. Eternally Feeding now just trying to throw bodies on the point, trying to stall as long as they can. Looking like it won't not be the result they are looking for. But what's surprising part of the window there? I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit surprised.
Yeah, again, I mean, they win this fight, but you have ults pop that aren't needed. Budweiser's gonna want that window back, as you do see this is going to be a much harder point for Pharah to control, as sidelines are going to be harder for her to play into without necessarily just standing in front of the team. So, I do think you're gonna want that ultimate back. However, though, they have set the tempo on this map, and you could see a little bit of mental boom here for Eternally Feeding, as they seem to be uncertain of what exactly they want to do, but it looks like they might be trying to play off of a Luxy hack in here.
Looking like that's gonna be the case, and there it is. Hack once again up, but perfectly execute the dive. Barrage does come from behind it, and there goes your Diva. No damage can be eaten down for the defense matrix. And Nate, he's swinging around the behind. He can't find much. Pulse might be a good start, however. Please, getting that one onto the shield of Bambi and taking him out. Distress still kicking and alive with that Mercy Fuck, getting the direct there onto Please, and shutting down that pretty well executed dive coming out from Eternally Feeding.
Yeah, so it was not bad. They do have another fight here, but again, you have key ultimates traded again. I don't know if Barrage was needed just because of the one pick. As you see a 6-man coming in here that could change the fight here.
Nate's diving in onto Meru, who's hacked up at this moment, but they get saved perfectly on time by Gary themselves. Keep them alive for that dive, and now regroup and push you back in. Spellbound Tengus is gonna be coming in with that bomb and Tac Visor in their arsenal.
Yeah, and really nothing besides beat here on the side of Eternally Feeding, so it'll be interesting to see how they do this. So it will need to be basically a dry fight for them, but they have to win. This beat is going to be massive, or have to be massive.
Looking like that's a good start. Meru falling on the hands of Nate. Honey, however, Spellbound are not done just yet. They want to turn this fight going. Honey, throwing the bomb down mid, and looking like it won't be enough. It isolates Lynn to get taken out by Stress. Barrage also coming through, taking out Chubb. No support on the side of Eternally Feeding.
Big bomb here.
Oh wow, I was agreeing with you on that one. It looked like a big bomb, but the block from Bambi, I guess, was quite immaculate. Just taking in all that damage. And now Spellbound, it's looking like this is their game. The beat is the stall on the point, but I don't know if there'll be enough. The Stress is still alive, paying those directs, taking you out one by one. Chop the fall next. The Shatter, not going to get much of a Bambi, but it's still okay. Looking like the favor of Spellbound is still coming in, but these might change that back around.
Yeah, it looks like right now pretty much you have just Nate stalling, trying to get people on point here. Yeah. Wow, big EMP there.
It is, but it's so low. He has to be taken out, but he's not. He gets around the car. He's in full health, staying held right back up by Gary, and perfect play there coming off of Spellbound to cap the third checkpoint.
Yeah, really good there. Spellbound not showing any mental boom there after losing map 1 in the fashion they did. Came out, he really put the pressure on them. Not as much time as they probably wanted, as they did roll into that point with, I believe, about 3:49 left going into that kind of semi-last fight area, and then they bled it down pretty well in Eternally Feeding. If you're Eternally Feeding here, though, you know what their win condition is. You know that Distress on that Pharah is what they're looking for. Take him out of the game, switch him off Pharah, it might be different. So if you're Eternally Feeding here, I think you look at a much more anti-Pharah comp. You look at some sort of hit scan, you pressure that Diva, you put 9 on that Diva again, you tell 9, just mark Distress the whole time. Wherever Distress goes, you just follow it. Because if you can get Distress off of that Pharah, kill the Pharah, Mercy falls quickly after, and then you have Butt is the only support left who seems to be maybe a little bit over-aggressive with his cooldowns. Throwing Immort when maybe not needed, and that's a big cooldown in this game. Windows popped whenever he wanted to, so I think if you take out the Pharah Mercy combo here, it's really going to put a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Budweiser and the rest of Spellbound to kind of stay up, as you do see now this comp coming out of for Spellbound, which would be much more poke-centric, so healing is much more important, but going to be the only person healing the two tanks here.
Yeah, and I would imagine that potentially could be death sentence if the side of Eternally Feeding get that supreme dive onto someone like Gary or Butt and bait out those Immort, or bait out one of those cooldowns early. Widow going to be coming in from Meru, trying to get an early pick here, trying to find something down these sidelines. However, Eternally Feeding, they now recognize that they're gonna rotate around the building here and potentially try to dive on a Meru. There it is, Lux takes down Meru.
And that is massive. That takes away a lot of the space made for your Pharah. Your Pharah has to play much more safe because there's no Widow popping heads against their team.
Mortality have to be popped to keep the tanks alive, but however, could it just fall instantly? Eternal Infinity just capitalizing on the lack of Batiste right now, going and taking out both tanks. And now at this moment, Spellbound, they're just trying to find a pick to turn us around, but I don't think it'll be enough. Distress, who does have the barrage, will be hacked and melted instantly. And Eternally Fading, that's looking like quite the confident cap coming in from them.
Yeah, absolutely no boom after losing that first fight, losing first point here quickly on their attack. Coming here on their own attack itself, coming very aggressive. 6-man is a good comp. 6-man dive is incredible, especially against those slow comps. And you do see some swaps coming here on Spellbound, but Spellbound still keeping that standard, just a stagnant shield tank there with very little peel. So Bambi might see himself on the end of some bullying here by the tank line as well as Luxy here, and Tracer could be interesting to see how they decide to utilize going against this dive with really no dive counters besides Honey Biscuit again having to do some chasing.
Could be quite interesting indeed. I mean, it's like you said, Bambi's potentially might get bold here without that speed. I'm assuming he wants to play just a third back around the poke coming in from Distress to do most of the job done. And so far it's working, however. They going and getting isolated from by Distress and Bambi getting taken down. Distress gonna find two more. Finding a third there on Fleece. Nice shot actually. And just like that, Eternally Fading sent back to the spawn doors.
Distress is what is making this comp work right now. On paper, this comp should lose to 6-man all the time because Urian has no speed, so he's just a sitting duck there, and D-Matrix doesn't work against Winston poke, and Winston is going to poke him out incredibly. However, Distress is just making such a large amount of space on this Pharah that it's really hard for them to really engage onto Bambi without Nate being half health or 9 using all of their D-Matrix, and it's just really causing some issues. So they need to realize what they need to kill first, as you do see Distress here is going to trade for that barrage. However, that could be more detrimental as the spawns are quicker for the side of Eternally Feeding, and now that there's no Pharah ruling the skies, and now Immort and your Baptiste are out, EMP probably not needed, but it looks like Eternally Feeding here is going to know that they have their win con down and to push on that.
Yeah, they are. They're going to push right into Honey. Probably going to push the Mary right after that, and indeed they do. Eternally Fading just storming right into the castle here, and interesting enough, like you said, I think they're trying, like we pointed out with that EMP bomb there, I think they're just trying to do that combo with the EMP bomb, but like you said, I don't think it was needed. I'm going to have to agree with you on that, Toast.
Yeah, it looks like they recognize quickly that their win con Distress is dead, so they push. Again, now you have the Immort coming in too late here from Bud. Bambi's already down, and Lux is in the back with hacks again. You have no Immort to save your team, and I think Eternally Thieving is finally finding their stride here on streets as they do cap, I believe, a little bit quicker than Spellbound Tengus did, and momentum with dive is everything. They have no ults right now. You do see Meru switch to this double flyer, but now, I mean, I'm curious to see, you have this bomb coming up. Luxy's building EMPs very quickly. Tracer just farms. It'll be interesting to see if they can actually put a stop to this 6-man, as I do see as Bambi need to be the person that switches here, or Obama, or Butt onto this Lucio to help Bambi out. So Bambi gets caught out right here. He's dead. He's just dead. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you really can't. I mean, in all honesty too, I'm surprised that Bambi was pushed up there. It wasn't forward respawn, but I guess that's what happens. And oh, that's a big bomb. Honey Biscuit just tossed that one over the bandit, looks like, and catching two.
Honey Biscuit's gonna use that bomb there, going to buy their team some momentum and maybe a little bit of relaxation to put some stall to that bomb. But however, Eternally Feeding is realizing Rhine's slow. And I'm going to keep preaching on it, but Rhine with no speed is going to die here. So unless Butt is insane with these Immorts, the minute that Nate drops that bubble over the top of Bambi, cutting off all healing possible, he's dead. Like, he's just dead. So they have to play really strong here around Bambi to allow him to get some value, or essentially you're fighting a 5-on-6 because poor Bambi's just swinging.
Indeed, and it's going to be quite challenging coming from this next match, this next team fight, I should say. Lux about to have the EMP ready to go. Could probably pop it alongside one another. Oh, it just falls! Choke finding them! The Shatter is huge, and that might be a worthy trade if they can find more, and indeed they do. Honey just taking out Nate right there. And now Eternally Fading, they're probably going to go right back into the spawn rooms, try and rethink that fight, because Tengus pulled it right back out.
EMP used there. Would like to maybe see Luxy swap off here, as Sombra has a really hard time getting around on this point, and EMP is your win con there with Sombra. However, going to keep it, I do think this is still very strong. They are still acknowledging Distress is the carry. They're taking Distress out first. It's working well. They just need to get this big ult combo here, as you do see Obama getting hacked. Big ult combo here, couple maybe cooldown combos here. I think it's very easy, and they're going to start off here with Coalescence.
Another barrage coming out from Distress, gonna get DN, but that time around, Distress will not be being taken out by Fleas. He's gonna be able to live. Now Distress up and kicking here, we can clipping in the damage, and he fights Fleas! Another direct onto the Tracer there. Spellbound, they now need to know that is their win con. They gotta go forward. Distress falls, but the res is there from Obama. And now Eternally Feeding. I would imagine they're gonna recognize that this is the retreat phase. Indeed they do. That's interesting. They're gonna get hacked up and die there, actually.
Yeah, and currently right now you have no immort for the next few seconds on the side of Spellbound, and you have no res. I think you get aggressive here. You get very aggressive, as your respawns are going to come in just as fast right now as Spellbound Tengus, and they're going to do that, and I think this is just due to poor cooldown management. As Bud's going to use immort there to save himself, but I almost would rather see him use that in a team fight here, as you do have stall characters coming in, but I don't think they're going to touch.
They can adjust to the right second, but the Shatter there is just going to make a lot of those bullets move off. Family Shatter, absolutely huge. Might be able to turn something around. How are you going to pop the self-destruct? Catching, please, actually. Look at that kid just moving to the hole. But going to be able to pop the window. Going to get pooped off out of great people coming out from 9, but I don't think it's going to be enough at this moment. 9 is just trying to do the best, but they're going to be dying here on the point. I'm going to get staggered out, but Tengus is going to take her out quite fast there.
Yeah, so you have Bambi Savior right there with that Shatter. Did seem like, it seems like Eternally Feeding thought they were going to push that in, and then Bambi just touches last second with that Shatter and makes it work. As you have this final fight coming in, and really just unfortunately Eternally Feeding not playing off of some of these mistakes that Spellbound is making, but in the same token, Eternally Feeding's making the same amount of mistakes, so it's really just going to be kind of who's going to make, I think, the least amount here on some crucial cooldowns to get into this last fight.
That's quite unfortunate for Budweiser. Budweiser got primaled into the back line of Eternally Feeding. He got taken out instantly. The Stress now going to have to probably pull this one back for his team. Going away, finding Chubb. That is a great start. Gary has to stay alive, and he does. He gets the belt. Absolutely clutch clipping in from Gary. Stress going to find a second onto Luxon. Smoking like this might be a turnaround. The Shatter ready to go from Bambi. He might just unleash it quite instantly. Nine's gonna pop the bomb. Not gonna catch a bunch of other. Shatter gonna cancel the remech. And it's looking like this. Then Spellbound Tengus not gonna allow the third cap coming in and making this series. Oh, Lux getting the last minute touch, but it will not be for long. Now Spellbound, they're gonna make this series tied up 1-1.
Yeah, definitely. Distress more or less 1v6'd a lot on those points. The Pharah really did not get answered too hard. I do see the value though in the dive trying to eliminate the team before Pharah gets that value, but still Pharah just got way too much poke there with the pocket, and really just kind of made it really hard for a lot of these dives to enact onto Bambi that they were looking for from Eternally Feeding. So going into next map here, I do think Hanamura is going to be a problem here, is if they do keep Distress in. Pharah is very, very strong on Hanamura. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of comp they run on the side of Eternally Feeding. His dive may not be the best thing here on Hanamura, especially against a Pharah. Pharah gets you in one of those small rooms or will poke you out to 25% of your health before you get through the choke. So it'll be very interesting to see what exactly the switch-ups here are from Eternally Feeding. Wasn't like they got blown out, though. Still very, very close map. Still nothing to necessarily be too down on if you are Eternally Feeding going into this third map, but definitely a lot to be high on if you're Spellbound Tengus. Just flip the game into your half here, as you are back even here going into map 3, which typically is somewhat of a mental game that if you can put big numbers up on Hanamura, it really kind of sets the tone for your Rialto map.
It most certainly does, and I mean, if we're going to talk about a mental game also here, so I want to remind the crowd that Spellbound Tengus, though have had a complete rework from last season, the players they have are majority players from last season, like superstar players. While on the side of Eternally Feeding, most of these guys probably have played in leagues before, but this is the first time here in Oasis. So this is definitely going to be a test of the mental for the, I would say, more for the side of Eternally Feeding here than Spellbound.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see here, but you do, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at T2 rosters here, I do believe on the side of Eternally Feeding, you do have Mr. Link, correct, from last season, or is he on Spellbound?
Mr. Link,
no,
yeah,
that's on Spellbound.
Yes,
Okay.
he's unstoppable now.
So that's a big loss. And I thought for some reason he was still on Eternally Feeding. So you do kind of have a lot of those key DPSs that left from Eternally Feeding last season, went over here to Spellbound. So you're really gonna have to dig deep to one of your new players to see who wants to be the one to step up and counter this this Pharah that just completely had Reign of the Sky.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I will say that that player could potentially be Please, right? Like, Please is someone I think who did very well on the Tracer. However, we always saw him on that Tracer during that dive comp. So I'm very curious to see if Please has like an Ashe maybe, because I would have, if Eternally Feeding are going to run that dive, I would imagine they're going to run the slow recess double barrier poke comp against this Pharah to try to push it back and out poke it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what exactly this is going to look like. I think you've seen them, in a sense, attempt to ignore the Pharah here on Hollywood. Did not work. So I think you throw the ignore Pharah strat out of the way, because they did it on Oasis. It worked on a different kind of map, but you have moving into these maps now. They're more Pharah based, Pharah stronger on. Obviously Hollywood, Hanamura, and then Rialto, they're all definitely stronger on. So I don't think the ignore Pharah strat's going to be necessarily something they can play off of anymore. So I do like possibly keeping still the dive, but if you keep this dive, Nine's job has to be just to mark distress. Just mark distress the whole time. Maybe throw a Zenyatta in there to mark it with the Discord. But you have to apply some sort of pressure to distress, or they're just going to keep absolutely raining down just terror on the side of Eternally Feeding. And even if Bambi doesn't have speed like I've been harping on, it doesn't matter if distress chunks everybody out before they can get to Bambi.
Agreed. Something I want to point out quickly, Toast, that's quite interesting. So, not only is OwO coming in on the DPS, a player that we saw only on map 1 so far on the support, but Loki the Legit is coming in. And if you don't know, Loki is Legit Hammers, also known as one of the greatest Torb players here in our Tier 2 scene in Oasis. So that's quite interesting to see. I'm wondering if they might pop out a Torb, his iconic Torb, or he's going to go something else like the Echo.
So Torb, great here on defense for Eternally Feeding. I do like putting your Torb player in for Eternally Feeding here on this defense side. Attacking is going to be a little bit different, but defense, if you have a good Torb player, know some good turret spots, and you create those off angles from, let's say, a Torb turret and your D.Va and the Zenyatta and the Ashe or something like that, it really can cause problems for the Pharah. So honestly, rolling onto this here for Eternally Feeding, I hope they run Torb. Obviously on attacks be different, but on defense, I hope they run the Torb. I hope they run such a hard counter Pharah comp for them to see if they can get distress off the Pharah. I think you have to necessarily put all your eggs in the basket of killing Pharah and then go from there, as you see distress somewhat 1v6 there. On the side of Spellbound Tengus, I think you still just keep putting those resources into distress till they tell you can't. I think you keep running somewhat of the same comp, but you just keep making it that distress is unkillable, and you just keep allowing him to take these angles, take these corners, take these direct fights, as you saw him hitting shots on Tracer, onto the Sombra, chunking out Winston, using all of D.Va's D-Matrix. So keep enabling him and allowing that the resources to be used by Eternally Feeding to no prevail.
Yeah, I mean, and that's when the last thing you mentioned there I want to point out is baiting out those resources. Distress has been baiting out like so many cooldowns coming out from like the Tracer, like first the rewind and the last team fight and stuff, that I would have to agree that it would be crazy if they swapped them out here. However, one thing I am curious about is, going into the second point of Hanamura, that's not really an area you really see Pharah be ran usually because of the close corridors to where it's hard for the Pharah to get into engage unless you go on the left side. I'm very curious to see what Distress does there. Like, does he go to the Doomfist, or does he do like maybe the Echo or something like the Ashe?
It will be something definitely interesting to see. I would expect to see a swap, as that is much easier for them to counter the Pharah there. However, second point of Hanamura is all about the steamroll. So if they do get the snowball effect going here quickly with on the side of Spellbound, before, like, if they cap first point with a couple ults in hand, I think you just push in with this Pharah, and just the tempo and steamroll aspect of Hanamura can allow this Pharah to work. But I would also, like you said, I would not expect to see maybe 1 or 2 fights on the Pharah on the second point if they don't hit this steamroll aspect, unless Eternally Feeding just decides not to counter it. but I would expect Eternally Feeding here. I know Kenny is smart. I know that a lot of players on that team are very smart. Are going to look for something to shut down Distress and go from there.
Alright, here we go, entering into map 3, the beautiful but kind of terrifying for certain players, World of Hanamura. And I'm very curious, if I'm correct, the red is once again the attacking side, if I'm correct, so...
Yes, that'll be Eternally Feeding going attack here first, so they're really looking here to set the tempo to kind of reset the mental after losing map 2. Again, did not lose bad. It was a very close map, so nothing to be down about, but they definitely looking probably here to set the tempo quickly and try to get some heavy time put on Hanamura, because if you put 4 or 5 minutes on a team in Hanamura, that just wipes a mental and it makes teams second guess what they can do to counter you.
Indeed, it does. And going in here, we're going to see legit not going to be starting on the Torp, most obviously from the attack. He's going to be starting on the Symmetra, Eternally Feeding, looking like they're going to try to teleport the point with the May, maybe get the wall on that front gate. I'm assuming once they use to get the teleporter into the bell area there.
That is extremely smart by them, especially if they can protect this TP. Just TP out of the forest sidelines. Get onto point and make her rotate. They will, though, have to protect this TP, as you do have that vertical spam coming from Distress that is probably looking to break that quickly.
Indeed, it's gonna be quite a game of who can pull the trigger first. Spellbound Tengus gonna be running that little Bayer poke comp coming in on the defense, and Distress already just spamming away through that window, trying to find an early pick onto somebody. However, the group up heals with Linhardt spamming away. Not gonna be allowed that. Oh, there we go. Nopra going on top instead of to the point. And the rotation already coming through. Will it take the game? Nope. So there we go. Meru's gonna get the touch, but they're by himself. They're isolated, and Eternally Feeding just pushed right onto them. Meru is now down for the fight. Oreo gonna fall next, however. And with the rest coming in from Gary, this is now up one far side. And Tengus going very back and forth. Out of the fire check gonna burn honey to her crisp. Fast rush over, Distress by Curtis, and does Distress! Absolutely bringing that one back for Spellbound. 2 ticks were gained, but in the end, the team fight was still won.
Yeah, really clutch there by Distress, as you did have you had legits there on the Symmetra against double shield, so it was very high charge melting away at the team. However, there is the space here. You do have slow Orisa, you have slow Sigma coming back to point where this team can get aggressive on point very quickly, probably before they get set up. As you see, they do go for that.
Window going to be going up alongside that wall. Also, Bambi going to have to walk right into the light of fire, and he is gone for the count. Distress trying the best he can to turn this, but no one else can touch it, seems, in time. Valkyrie pop, but it's too late. Cap going in the favor of Eternally Feeding.
And they are going to get a little bit of a stagger pick there. Is obviously going to reset. Happen pretty quickly, but the biggest thing there coming out of that fight is it looks they do swap on that Reinhardt, so Bongo is foregone, and you did have Valve used by Mercy, so that's not there for this next fight where they're looking for the steamroll.
Shatter gonna come out, Nate, but Honey's gonna actually block that over barrier there. Buck's now coming after, and it's huge. Legit is gone for the count. Window gonna come out now, and there's no shield on the side from Nate to block that. It's gone, and he is gonna fall alongside that. Tac Visor from behind is absolutely grand, and Meru is melted away. Chubb in 9, and team fight gonna be solidly won there by Tengus.
Honey Biscuit clutches that fight for them right there with that Graphitic there, picks him up, really negating a lot of that beat value that they can fight with. They still had beat, but picking him up long enough so that they can't necessarily fight with that beat, they're just there to live with it. Only complaint again though, on the side of Spellbound Tengus, you do have some ults that aren't needed. I don't think, but with the spawns on the side of Spellbound Tengus being quicker, they don't need to use that window. I don't think Visor is necessarily needed, as they were up 2 to 3 picks before that.
I would have to agree. They definitely didn't use those 2 ults. They could have said, we negate this Blizzard and Bomb and Window coming in. However, Distress just being an absolute menace of a society towards Eternally Feeding. Getting that quick pick on Oreo Fox, you just have to force him back and wait a couple 30 seconds before he can re-engage. Yeah,
and we mentioned Pharah. Terrible on attack for second point here. Good on defense for second point here, as teams do have to push into these small corridors. She's just a Junkrat that's harder to hit. And you do see a lot of Junkrat played on these points. to negate those off angles. So I think this is really good here. This plays into Distress's favor. It'll be interesting to see if they can just play off Distress's back here again. As you see the barrage come in, getting Linhers, so it makes this an even fight.
Very forward, however, is going to make the lack of tank presence quite scary. Honey's the only one right now that can really stay alive. But the Brez comes through it, and look at that, just like that, Mero in Distress just better be able to solidly clean that up. And all that damage there. However, 2 ticks being gained is quite scary for Tengus.
Yeah, that could be enough to win the second point Hanamura. Hanamura, very hard point to win second point here and to really even get any value on his spawn advantage is massive. So giving up those 2 points could be the difference maker here. However, though, you do still have this Pharah that is getting a lot of value, and you still are swapping onto heroes that I don't think can help a lot with it. You have only D.Va that can straight contest this. You have the Sombra looking for these hack plays, try to get the pressure on point. However, though, you're still just choosing not to look at Pharah.
Shatter Flux combo coming in to full effect, and it works beautifully. Honey just getting a double flux there. Loki Chubb just going out for the count. Now it's only Lin on the point, and Bambi just gonna swat him away like a fly. And eternally feeding. If it ain't broke, they'll fix the strategy. Looking like right there, just not working at all. However, I'm assuming that just trying to build up ults for the next team fight.
Yeah, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it's broke right now. They need to fix it. This Pharah is getting insane value, and you're now going into your second different comp on this point that is still choosing to ignore it, unless you're telling Nines to mark that Pharah the whole time. But Pharah has pocket. D.Va can't do anything besides push her out a little bit, and Distress is clearly making it known that, hey, I am better. I need more than just a D.Va marking me. Try to make me swap, and they're choosing not to.
It is very interesting. At this point, I gotta say, Toasty, I think this is more of a ability than anything, right? Because, like you said, it definitely needs something more than a D.Va just been marking Distress. They need like a hit scan, like a McCree or Ash or something. But I don't think, at the side of Turtle with Media, I just don't think they're comfortable running that at this moment.
Yeah, that would be my rationale for this, I think, as well, is maybe their DPS currently are not comfortable playing that. However, I don't even know if you need to play something necessarily super well. Just throw like a soldier in here or something just to get some poke at her. Because currently she's just probably Distress probably playing this game one-handed right now, just hanging out. Because with this Mercy Beam, no damage is getting done to him. He's poking out everything he wants and then some. So it's interesting.
Very interesting indeed, but that hack coming from legit might be a game changer. Distress going out for a time period, but he's back in the fight. Valkyrie being followed alongside a Bomb Buster, keeping this team up. The ground barrage gonna take out 9, and that pulse upwards not gonna connect with OwO. The plans from Eternally Feeding just not pulling through, and the EMP from legit just not getting the full value that they wanted from it. And now Eternally Feeding, 10 seconds on the clock. They're gonna have to touch before it's too late. I would imagine it's gonna be Nate. He has the primal almost ready to go. And indeed, it's looking like it is. Nate just waiting for it, diving in right into the 1 second block. But he's diving right to a flux. Both supports in the air. Chubb so low, he might die. However, the primal will be getting some value. Mero going down. Not really capitalize on that window on the high ground. 9 popping a bomb there. And Nate finding a second on a Honey. Can Nate be able to bring this back? But he's isolated so low, but he does it! The Budweiser himself taking out Nate in a quick, snickety, fast, quicky flash. And just like that, Spellbound gonna be able to hold second there. And I gotta say, Toasty, it really looked like Eternally Feeding ran into a wall there.
Yeah, I mean, it's same stuff here, different map. I mean, plot twist, spoiler alert for Eternally Feeding and everybody else watching this, Distress is good on Pharah. Distress is very good on Pharah. Distress is hard carrying a lot of fights on Pharah. Probably should kill the Pharah. If you don't have that hit scan player in that can necessarily help, you'd have to get creative with this. Maybe go Chaos Compy, something that's going to attack from all angles. But if you keep trying to set up these 6-man dives, or fights where you're all bunched together, pretty much looking Distress in the face as Pharah, they're going to build barrage very quickly. They're going to keep lapping you in ults, so maybe get creative with it. If you don't have those hit scan players in, that's fine, but we say that, and then you have legit running the McCree here on defense. So why that wasn't thrown out on attack, because clearly they feel comfortable now looking at the McCree for some help here. Why you didn't look at that on attack is odd to me, because just some sort of aerial denial, some presence there by a hit scan could have made the world of difference, because Distress was pretty much just playing inside the team. Just playing inside the team of Eternally Feeding and doing whatever they wanted and getting out with Gary's pocket.
They were, and it's again now going here onto the attack. It's gonna be interesting to see Distress playing the Symmetra now. They want to get that teleporter onto the point and take a fast cap. That is definitely what their game plan is, to get past stealth barrier, or I should say a reset barrier. So far it's really quite good, but Bloodwise are going to pop that inboards quite early. Might pay off, however, because Meru finding Nate by himself there on the right. Legit trying to get a blank here. Will get it. Meru going down. Chubb poking away there with the Zen by Distress. No DPS now on the side of Tengus. They're going to have to rely on the good old Sigma damage. Nate gonna have to get it. Gonna be coming back on the ball at this moment. However, it's looking like he'll be quite fine, because his team with Oreo Fox and Legit just winging up at this moment.
Yeah, that's good. Good right there on the side defensively here for Eternally Feeding. I like Spellbound Tengus' attempt there with the push in, so it'll be interesting to see if they decide to keep with this. But you gotta obviously know that in their pocket, you know, push comes to shove. Oh man, we don't sim TP strat, let's just throw Distress on Pharah again and see what happens. Like, all the cards are in the hands right now of Spellbound in terms of momentum, confidence, and looking ahead in the series. So it's really up to Eternally Feeding to step up here to the occasion and be like, listen, we know we struggled, but we're going to answer back right now in an honoring fashion.
Teleporter going to be placed top left here, going to the high ground, dropping down. Honey, but building up that quick flux, gonna pop it, but Bambi's already down. He got multi-cord, melted to a crisp. Loki though, falling into the hands of Butt. This might be turnable. You have the wall, you might be able to bring this way back here. However, you're back. That's a lot of your heals. Now gone, and Oreo Foxy, that is the go button for them. They're gonna find Mary with a headshot kill. Gary though, I think Gary's brought the backflip, getting beat the DPS Lucio there, fighting two there.
All is going according to plan.
Yeah, and you saw there a good attempted stall there on the side of Eternally Feeding. They did fade out some decent time. Gonna have about 5 minutes in the bank here for Hanamura, but that really is not too terribly that much time, as if they do stop this first steamroll on the side of Spellbound Tengus, these walks back from spawn are forever long. However, though, Spellbound Tengus, you have all the cards once in your hand again. You just have to cap. You just have to full cap, which is easier said than done, but you have some time to do it. You have the players on your team. It's time. It's go time for them.
Go time it is indeed. And there it is. Go button. The beat going straight in, but that's not going to pay off at all. Bambi goes down early, and that's a free shot for Nate. Finding four there, just swinging away. And that's going to be the gong, going to be rung there. The team kill going for Eternally Feeding.
Yeah, Nate really stepping up here. Nate says, listen, I know Distress is giving us issues, really making DPS hard here, but I'm gonna be the difference maker here on tank. I'm gonna step up and provide some pressure in my role and really try to outrun Bambi here and really set that tempo and maybe slow up Distress a little bit. But you do see here Distress swap onto that Pharah. So let's see if they can make it work on here, one of the harder points. However, they do have the double hit scan and Pharah counter in Diva, Torb, and McCree, so could be some better answers here by Eternally Feeding, and the pin bomb combo gets two, and that should be a done fight right there.
Quite instantly it is. I mean, done fight. That was beautifully done, the combo with the pin. I didn't get a chance to see it, but I'm honestly quite shocked that Butt didn't get enough time to pop the retaliate to save Bambi from the pin there.
Yeah, it was a weird fight right there. Honestly, if I'm on the team, I'd say that's fine. That's a crucial cooldown. I'd rather keep it. That looked like a lost fight. And going into Hanamura, you know you need big 6 ults, or you need some key cooldowns here to make this work, as spawn advantages are so big that in order to get all 3 points, you need something massive.
The high noon speed boost coming in there. But that shatter, wait a minute, that was absolutely gorgeous there, Bambi. Getting the fat shatter combined with Meru's Death Blossom. It just gets a quick cleanup, and just like that, the quick play coming out from Eternally Fading, going back in the favor of Tengus. The multi-core, the Capri Sun coming out, but it's not going to be catching anybody there. Flux some Honey, just looking back to a solve by the deal. But Nate might have their answer to this, might want to turn us back around, but no one can touch, unfortunately. And Tengus, they're going to be able to take the second map here, or third map, I should say, making this series 2-1.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate there for Eternally Feeding, as they did have some members here that could touch and stall this out, with spawn advantage being so big, and Torp's multicore still being on point. But they do lose here this map. Spellbound Tengus playing really well around their Pharah player right now. So, you go in now here into fourth map. 2-1, Spellbound Tengus, with, I'm assuming, probably no swaps. Shocking, I'm sure, but probably going to be a no swap here, keeping somewhat of the same comp. What do you do? I don't know. They need to put in whoever they think is their best hit scan, or both their best hit scans. Honestly, if they decide to keep Distress in, go double hit scan. It's very strong. A double hit scan, double sniper comp on Rialto to control those sightlines, because if you just let Pharah go free here on attack or defense, I think Rialto may be one of the best maps for Pharah in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I also gotta say that, like, if you don't have the confidence to go like the Widow or like a Creo or double hit scan like that, Soldier is not a bad choice to do also, especially after since those fall off nerfs that came out for the hit scans. Soldier's been a pretty decent choice to put alongside like a McCree or Ashe or Widow if you want that double hit scan comp to suit the damage.
Yeah, I think you're wanting to do something here. If you're Eternally Feeding on defense, you run something that I've said before, you just super anti-Pharah, because on attack 6-man is incredible, and we've seen Eternally Feeding can run a strong dive, and it's very hard to counter on Rialto. So if you can pull a good defense here and negate the abilities of Distress here to hard carry on that Pharah, going in here to Rialto on attack for them, that 6-man dive can make a lot of space and cause a lot of issues if there's a lack of resources for your tank line. And you know there'll already be one resource solely dedicated to that Pharah in that Mercy. So, really need to play something here that can shut down Pharah and then capitalize on those issues that the rest of Spellbound Tengus has, so that your attacking phase here can be something you definitely set the tempo with and get some pressure on going into what would have to be a map 5 here for Eternally Feeding to win. But if you're Spellbound Tengus, you just continue, play around Distress, do what you can with him, and then also create some off-angle pressure from Meru here on the second DPS or whatever it might be. I'd love to see another hit scan out of Meru here, maybe an Ashe. Widow's also very good here to create that off-angle pressure, because obviously they don't want this going to a map 5. They get a strong attack here, in terms of what they can do, a full cap or an almost full cap. That puts a lot of pressure on Eternally Feeding here on their attack, and could just very well end the series.
It most certainly can. Something interesting I do want to point out, however, is that it's looking like Honey has left the lobby, which probably means they won't be playing any more games tonight. So I'm assuming we're going to be seeing as a off-tank swap coming in from Spellbound on map 4 here, which I'm assuming is either going to be Juan or Rabid.
Yeah, and that could be a big issue there, as you do see Bambi and Honey really gelling the last 2 maps. And Honey, honestly, I think, been the standout tank player tonight. Did some really key plays there on Hanamura, some small micro plays that really turned into big macro wins for the side of Spellbound Tengus. So it's going to be interesting to see how they decide to replace that, and what the plan's going to be moving forward, as you do see coming in from them, the only swap going to be Rabid Bunny in on that tank line with Bambi. Rest of it staying the same. So you can probably guess what the rest of the comp's going to be. You know what it is now, Eternally Feeding, counter it. Like that, you know what they're going to run. They've ran the same thing for their win con the past 2 maps with the exact same lineup. Ball's in your court.
I mean, there is. I do want to say there is one other change that I think I don't know if I don't know.
Oh yeah, I apologize. Nat is also coming back in, who played very well on that Baptiste on map 1 and did some really good things window wise, especially, and really good patient, smart immort usage there on those points. So again, I do still think you'll see some of that same comp. I do still think you'll see that Baptiste play. However, though, Gary might show some more flexibility here, in terms of they may want to put some more pressure on the ground here if they do think Distress has not been countered. They may feel confident enough to do maybe like a BAP or something like that. It's going to provide more pressure for Bambi, and just let's see if Distress can do this by himself.
Yeah, I mean, you said on a BAP is one, but I was also thinking potentially a BAP Zen, because like we've seen Gary play that Zen in the past, and it's looked as one of his best heroes next to his BAP and Ana, and it would honestly not be a surprise here on Rialto, right, to see that kind of like more pokish style if they trust Distress that much, the soul of the Pharah.
Yeah, I could see the BAP Zen. However, the only problem with that is I still think if you're Spellbound, you are concerned of Eternally Feeding running this dive again. There's no bigger dive target in the game than Zenyatta. So if you're going to run that Zen, I would almost go with a Zen Briggy type of comp, but then that's going to put your tank line at a really disadvantage, because you're going to need some sort of resource on that Zenyatta, because if Zen gets caught out by anybody, unless Zen's going to 1v6 there and just 5-ball everybody, Zen's going to die. So it'll be tough. I could see them looking for maybe some swaps, though, as this is a different type of map here. Very open. I think Zen could be very strong. I do still think, though, you keep that Baptiste at a minimum, because Bambi's wanted to keep the Rhine all night. So I think you need a Baptiste at least to keep him up, especially if you're not going to have that Lucio for speed.
Yeah, I mean that is what that is what the hero that Bambi did get known on, is that Reinhardt, and he really likes to remind people about it. So yeah, it's definitely gonna have to play that Baptiste to keep him up. Now, swaps coming in for Eternally Feeding that I want to mention that I find interesting. Please, who played on map 2 Hollywood on that DPS, going to the support this time, and OwO coming back in on the DPS alongside Legit.
Yeah, been interesting to see. This is also a very strong Torb map. I think 6-man might get a little bit harder unless you want to throw Legits on that Sombra. OwO looked very good on the Tracer, the maps they played. So you could still look for that 6-man if Legits feels comfortable on the Sombra, which I did see them run a little bit on Hanamura. So it's still definitely possible. However, you could run a 6-man. You could run not a 6-man, but a somewhat of a dive with a Widow. I believe Legits played some Widow a little bit last season, and I think their hero pool is stronger than just Torbjorn, but they're obviously known as Torbjorn, as a Torbjorn player. So interesting to see here, but I think you do have one of your stronger DPS lineup options in here for Eternally Feeding to try and shut down Distress, and I'm sure that is literally what has been said the whole time in this lead up to this map is, okay, we gotta kill the Pharah. We gotta shut down Distress and make the rest of their team step up, because right now the rest of the team for Spellbound is feeling pretty good, because they know if Distress is in the air, very little else happens.
Mm-hmm. It is 100% the win condition for Spellbound, and is to keep Distress in the air and alive and kicking. And Eternally Feeding, like you said, they're going to be going to this map on Operation Kill Distress. There we go, both readies on both sides. So we should be now getting into map 4 here, which is good, which is as you now see, Rialto.
Yeah, and okay. Rialto will be interesting to see. I do know Rabid Bunny also plays that Orisa, so you could see somewhat of a pseudo double shield coming out here for Spellbound Tengus if they're wanting to just bunker down and wait for the Distress pick to happen, and then go in off of that. I do think there's a lot of depth here on the tank line options here. Whenever Rabid Bunny comes in to possibly run that double main tank, double shield, or you can go to that typical D.Va or Zarya option here. All of which, though, I think are very susceptible to the dive of Eternally Feeding. However, though, the dive of Eternally Feeding has been susceptible all night to Distress. So it's a give and take there.
It is definitely a give and take. Oh, something that I want to update the stream quickly. We're going to be waiting just 1 minute as KDB, our wonderful caster, is going to be, I assume, BRB. So as we wait for her, I just want to keep this conversation going. Say that if we do see that, like you said, that Risa coming out from Rabid, it's gonna be. It makes me wonder if Bambi's either gonna go to the off tank, something that we saw him experiment last season on. The Bambi played a little bit off tank while he was in his time in tier 3 with DP, back in season 5, or he's just gonna do the Reinhardt.
Yeah, it could be a wide variety of things here for Bambi. I know Bambi's comfort pick is that Rhine, so I would almost be fairly certain that that you will see Bambi on that Reinhardt for this map. I think the more fluid question is going to be what will we see Rabbit Bunny on, and that'll be where the comp kind of pivots. I think you keep Bambi on this Reinhardt. I think Bambi wants to stay on this Reinhardt, and you kind of build the comp around that, minus the Distress Pharah, as that is going to be certain death taxes, and Distress is going to run Pharah until forced off.
I would imagine. I mean, there's also the slim chance of Distress going to the Echo, but with how well their Pharah's performing tonight, I highly doubt we're going to see that coming out. All right, here we go. Now entering in our map 4. Spellbound going to be on that attack, and I would imagine we're going to be seeing basically the same thing what we've been seeing almost all series coming out from them once again. And yes, we are Distress getting onto that Pharah with a bomb. Going to follow with the Mercy, and Bambi, yep, going to be on the right, and Rabbit going to the Diva. So yep, well, basically the same thing we've been seeing from Spellbound all series far, except Meru going to be on the Widow this time around.
Yeah, and Meru, kind of a wild card here on this Widow. I saw Meru obviously play it for about 6 seconds, as we do get a pause here, but that may have just been an accidental thing. Saw Meru play for the Widow for about 6 seconds there on Hollywood, and then due to a well-timed hack said, nah, not gonna deal with this. Trying to play Widow into a Sombra, let's go back to Soldier, which they performed very well on. So it'll be interesting to see, as this is a great Widow map for them to set up those off angles, to really negate the sightlines, pressure Yo-Yo, and just allow Distress just to do Distress things.
Oh, I like this play go terribly feeding here. Terribly feeding, gonna be holding that far left, gonna wall Bambi, delete him from the universe there. Bambi just getting absolutely demolished. Perfect synergy there with the wall. And aggressive play they're coming out. They know they gotta play into that tank, smack that tank weapon before Distress can, take him out. Yo-Yo gonna be on that retreat, trying to hack away. However, Distress is behind him, and I don't know if he knows it just yet. Immortality coming out, gonna be keeping up with both teams for quite a while, but with the spawn hold, right, you just wanted to delay the payload for a little bit of time. Not trying to win 18 fight here, but they look like they will. Nate getting a fat shatter, fighting 3 there. And Spellbound actually gonna get sent back to their own spawn.
Yeah, Nate just put on the big boy pants there and said, listen, I know Distress is the problem, but we're not boomed. I'm going to hold you in your spawn, and you're going to see what you can do about it. Insane plays there by Nate, eternally feeding, to set this tempo and say, yeah, you beat us the past 2, but we're not going away. Prepare for a fight.
That pick from Mario onto the Batiste, however, is going to force eternally feeding all the way back. And you don't want to play that aggressive in that spawn without the Batiste. And Immortality is such an important component to doing that. And now Spellbound Tengus, they got the space that they were looking for quite early on this game. Wall is going to be popped from Meru. See Spotlight, Shatter for Bambi, absolutely huge. That is going to be quite the swift cleanup coming from Tengus.
Yeah, and that's just unfortunate. Nate looked for the flank play, looking to keep that aggressive tempo. Meru had sights. There was no call, I'm guessing, that Widow was close to sights. And unfortunately, when Widow pops that ultimate, they're like, oh hey, there's Nate coming through the cafe. Anybody want to stop him? And Bambi's like, sure, I got Shatter, we'll do that. And Nate turned the corner and just got smacked. So, really unfortunate circumstance for them. However, though, they're going to have to fight and try to get back to this cart to contest it for one last fight. But there's Distress, just play in that room, and it's going to get one there. This is probably going to be the end here of the defense on point 1 for the side of Eternally Feeding.
Well, like that will be the end. I mean, Nate is in basically Wonderland right now, over here on the right. And at this point, it's just the stall game. How long can the people on Eternally Feeding live and stall the time down? Looking like not for long, however. Cheeky little pin there from Bambi. And there we go, Tengus gonna be able to get the first point here. It was a pretty nice time bank to boot.
Yeah, and your Ryan's gonna get staggered here, so that's gonna be massively unfortunate. Yo-Yo popping the the high noon there. Not sure a lot of value there unless you're trying to bail your Rhine out there. But unfortunately, it looked like Nate said, yeah, I'm dead. We're gonna let this happen. So maybe a miscue there, but they are gonna be back in decent time to contest it at this typical first corner. So hopefully something coming out here apparently to make this a game.
I wouldn't go on a limb and say that was definitely to build a Ryan now, but without the high noon now, that's going to be a lot of pressure. You're going to have to bait off a couple of ults solved by this team fight particular Eternal Bleeding, and then doing just that. Blizzard is going to be coming out for everybody. Does not have the DM up to eat it. And now Tengus, they can go back to the spawn room with some ults coming up. They almost have the window. And potentially could get a Valk ready to go if Gary could get some nice burst heal onto Distress Heal.
Yeah, so OwO really legit right there, really the hero there with that Blizzard, and actually they played that really well. Don't know if it was planned or not, but Nate gets most of the cleanups there. So he actually popped Shatter that last fight and just built up another one off of the play there, off the Blizzard. However, he gets shattered. Bomb is going to trade though for that Immor, and it looks like there might be a chance it still swings into the favor of Eternally Feeding.
I would have to say so. You just have to deal with the stress. That's the one way you're going to win this. Even with Baby down, with all that front line from the side of Spellbound gone, you need to take on the stress. He's back up, he got res! Baby pins Nate back into the Oblivion, and just the stress still having the contestation needed for him. Just going to be getting a quick cleanup here. Barrage to solidify that win.
Yeah, this is gonna be very problematic here for Eternally Feeding. I don't know if they maybe are mentally boomed here or what's going on, but they're really struggling to put any pressure. There's at one point in time the Mercy dropped to res Bambi, and Distress was sitting about half health, just hanging out. Like, what's up, guys? And no one focused it. They tried to break up the res. I would trade res for the life of Distress at this point. I would have let that res happen, get Bambi up. Let them get Bambi up, but kill the carry. But they chose to try to force them off the res. Bambi gets up, and Distress still kills about 3 in that fight, and now you're going into third point here with about 2.5 minutes left on the side of Eternally Feed, on the side of Spellbound, and Eternally Feeding's trying to figure out what exactly they want to do about this.
They're gonna have the time to think, and oh, there we go. Interesting enough, legit gonna get off of that May after that Blizzard, and gonna be going to the Torbjorn here. Now, I know a lot of people. This could go either way, right? Either the turret contests Distress, or Distress just went 2 directs like that, destroys it instantly.
Yeah, but I like the swap though, at least to provide some sort of other thing that Distress has to look at. Like, Distress at least has to acknowledge a Torb turret's existence. Distress had no need to acknowledge May's existence. Unless May hit left clicks, she was not doing anything. So you do see some ults invested here. They are going to kill Distress. They do get the Shatter out on the side of Eternally Feeding, but this bomb here from Bonnie's just going to keep the tempo going here for Spellbound Tengus, and it looks like there might be swaps to stall here as you are really struggling here to find any answers on the side of Eternally Feeding.
It's looking so legit. Gonna be running out with the hammer. Bomb gonna be coming in on point, trying to get someone. It does. Gary is gone. Distress not gonna have his faithful Mercy now to keep him up. Nine's gonna fall up for a second. Nat gone from the count, and Nine's being the hero there for the side of Eternal Feeding with that clutch bomb.
No, beautiful bomb there, beautiful play, and if you're Eternally Feeding here, this is the best spot for this card to be stopped. This team probably has one full fight left because it's almost all the way. Yes, you've given up a lot of points, but if you can hold here, there's still a win con for you to fully cap, and this is going to be very hard for them to get this full cap, unless there's a quick team wipe on the side of Eternally Feeding. This is probably last fight territory for Spellbound Tengus.
Yeah, especially how far away the attack respawn is from this last checkpoint. It's going to be 100% the last team fight. 30 seconds now, about to hit on the timer. Tengus walking in with the Shatter. That's definitely the win condition to land a fat Shatter, and it's okay, but no one's there to capitalize to take out Nines out of the mech. And OwO with the high noon. That's looking like it's gonna be it. Tengus now gonna have to back up instantly, but I don't know if they can bring this back. Toast.
No, I think one kill here is the stagger, as you still have Mary's not going to be there for the final fight. Bambi's not going to be there for the final fight. Rabbit Bunny can maybe touch with an Immort from Nat, but Nat had to use it there to save So I don't think they have a healthy touch besides Bunny here. As Bunny's gonna go out, Distressed almost has that barrage, so this is still anybody's game as Distressed has been unrelenting here. Does choose to use it though to solo it, however went for the pin. This could be a flip here for Spellbound Tengus.
It most certainly can. Beat coming off a Chubb. They want to keep this fight in their favor, and that beat might have been it. Distress finally going to go down here. This team fight. Yo-Yo finding the second one onto Obama. There's going to be no res onto that bar. Nine's just going to use the bomb, going to get that immortality out of the way, and nobody else of Tengus can touch Bambi. Going to get booped off. And Eternally Feeding, getting a nice hold there before the third checkpoint.
Yeah, Eternally Feeding. You have win con here. You still can win this game and force a map 5. Yo-Yo looks to be your best answer to Distressed on that McCree. Put Yo-Yo on that Cree. I know 6-man is what's working for you guys, but I'm honestly concerned with how much distance you gave Spellbound Tengus. That I don't think you could run the 6-man ignore Pharah till last second comp. I think you need to keep this McCree and try to play around that. Maybe even throw a pocket on it. Run a pocket hit scan of your own. If you think Yo-Yo can do it, put Chubb or Please here on this Mercy in kind of like a mirror comp situation. I don't think just running a hard meta comp is going to be able to beat this when Distress is just crushing all your hopes and dreams there on Pharah. I think you still need to keep that answer. You have Yo-Yo here on the McCree, you have the Diva from Nines, you have Loki, and you even have Please here that can counter this. This is doable. This is still a very winnable map for Eternally Feeding. They just need to keep their priorities in the fact that Distressed is the issue. Kill him, then push on to the team. If you get that kill, Bambi still has no speed. You guys have speed. Play that to your advantage. You kill Distressed, you run in. You make sure Distressed doesn't get rezzed, and you kill the rest of the team.
Thank you, Baptiste.
I would have to fully agree, and it's looking like that. It's looking like Eternally Feeding also does. They're going to be running the Torbjorn on attack, actually. Coming out alongside Yo-Yo's McCree. Distress is going to be spamming away already, trying to build up a fast barrage. Getting a nice 10% from that initial spam. However, the lack of Lucio, Bam's going to have to play a bit slow here around this corner. Oh, that's an immaculate boot coming out from Distress. Could instantly make Eternally Feeding have to go right back, wait for Nate.
Yeah, and most importantly, Distress just got massive ult charge off that because that is a 500 full health Reinhardt. You're getting all that credit for damage there. So you do see Yo-Yo kills Nat, which is all the resources that you have, and they stun the Mercy out. You have no support. Distress is down, you go. You have Chubb boost speed. You hit the go button and you run to spawn against them. You put Torb on cart with that turret and you just run to their spawn. You want this constant cart pressure right now, and then you want the pressure towards spawn. So I think you just put 1 on cart, and I think you just keep playing for these picks, because if you just put 3 on cart, they're still going to have this chance to fight you. You need to create staggers.
Yeah, I mean, especially you want to get that golden time pick after this first checkpoint, you gotta create those staggers. Mario on the soldier here, gonna be spamming down the choke, trying to get some damage here onto the front line. Nate, extremely low, have to back up, and please, he now has the window ready to go. Before gonna come out, that window gonna follow, and Distress gonna get a very aggressive barrage, just gonna leave them right for the picking for Chubb, and Eternally Feeding. They don't even need a window of their own. They're gonna pop the beat instead. Beat engage right in. High noob from behind from Yo-Yo. Bambi has a massive shatter, but you're not gonna be able to block that high noob from Yo-Yo. And just like that, Eternally Feeding gonna get a confident 4 minutes 38 seconds on that time bank.
Beautiful. That's great. Very good pressure by them. They negated the Pharah. Distress here, playing with confidence, as they should be. Went for the full face barrage. 9 says, okay, cool, you killed my Reinhardt, I'm gonna eat the rest of that, Yo-Yo's gonna kill you. Happened. That's a good trade there. You still have that pressure applied. Now, you have the pressure here on the side of Eternally Feeding. You keep running at them like you're doing. I cannot stress enough that the big difference is their Rein doesn't have speed, and that's what happens when Reins don't have speed.
Nay, but like you said, that is a huge reason why you need that speed boost. It's so hard to disengage or even engage yourself as the Reinhardt or Bambi without that Lucio. However, Nate getting a bit over-eager, over-Dingus, and just staying and charging right in and getting himself picked, that just gave Spellbound the opening, the window to just go back in and win that team fight.
Yeah, so Nate gets a big shatter there. builds up pretty close to another one, but does trade his life for it. However, the value of Nate's life right there was, I believe, a Valkyrie, a bomb, and a tack visor. If I'm Nate, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. That they felt the need to win a team fight I was out of with these 3 ultimates. So you do have more ultimates rotating on the side of Eternal Feeding. Still very, very winnable. You just have to keep acknowledging that Distress is here. As Distress has the barrage, it's going to look for something big here.
I would imagine if he goes to the back line. Yep, there he is, going right into the barrier. Trying to get Nate, but that follow that she wrote, legit just gonna punch Distress back into the spawn room. Yo-Yo gonna just hide now. Gonna get blocked, but I feel like this should be enough. Yo-Yo is by himself, however. They could get him, yep they do, Meru gets him. It's definitely not winnable besides Tengus. Window gonna fall up right afterwards. There's no immortality. Nat used it quite early before, and now legit is gonna use the multi-core to melt them away. Absolutely tragic. I mean, for Tengus, they almost all had the turnaround there, but Eternally Feeding just knew the cooldowns were down for that and took full advantage of it. Wait a minute. This is interesting. Look at
Tengu's gonna stabilize here, and it looks like they still may be winning this fight here, as this is a very prolonged fight, which is great for Tengus in terms of time bank, as they do bait Shatter out of Nate there, and it just really looking like this is still just a very prolonged fight where all you're doing is allowing Distress to build these ults and Bambi to build these ults back up.
Indeed so. Shatter ready to go from Bambi. Probably going to be reaching it right now. There it is. Catch, please. Now down for the count. 9 blind bomb, however, to get Nat. There's no fatigue on the field. Gary has to use that belt just to keep the front line up, but it's not enough. Nate just swinging away, getting a 3K there. Eternally Feeding. Going to cap the second point in 3 minutes of the clock. If you're Tengus, you are definitely sweating. That is enough time to get some more ults on the board and get potentially fight to.
Absolutely. You have 3 minutes to extend the series. Eternally Feeding, Spellbound, you have 3 minutes to solidify. The situation of who wants it more here is you're looking at a lot of similarities here, and they're all rotations and compositions. I think the win condition here for Eternally Feeding is Nate over Bambi. Obviously, the win condition for Spellbound the whole game has been Distress. You do see Nate getting a big shatter there, and it's forcing a lot of resources out of the side of Spellbound Tengus. I said earlier that I thought Honey Biscuit was this tank standout tonight. I retract that. Honey Biscuit has played great, but Nate is currently Eternally Feeding. Nate is this team as he forces this into a map 5 scenario on the back of just a straight MTD that map. He said, listen, Distressed is obviously gapping us right now with this Pharah. I'm going to do what I can. It started off with a spawn hold, setting massive tempo with some massive plays and early shatters, and then right here, keeping momentum going on the attack side, I think out-shattering Bambi by 2 to 3 people each time he hit a shatter. And more importantly, the shatters he hit outside of the one where he just did it for momentum and pinned down the stairs and died were very heavily followed up there. Right there, you see the shatter was followed up by legit with the Molten Core, with the High Noon by Yo-Yo. So I think right now, going into this map 5, I honestly think that you somewhat might be favoring the side of Eternally Feeding. Has the momentum, winning last map, going into Ilios, which necessarily is a decent Pharah map, but not great. I mean, Lighthouse is okay, but if you play in that room as once you cap it, Pharah gets little value. Well is okay, again, places to hide. Ruins is a very good one, but I don't think it's a map where you can crutch a Pharah. So if you're Eternally Feeding here, I think you feel really, really good about this. And if you're Spellbound Tengus, you feel good, but you might be looking for something else to maybe complement the Pharah more.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say quickly also about jumping back to Nate quickly. I feel like Nate is finally just getting a confidence and understanding that Bambi is not going to have that Lucille at all throughout this entire game. It's basically solidified at this point that Gary is in that Mercy Jail for the Pharah, and I feel like Nate is taking the full advantage of that, just being able to walk past barriers and get the speed boost with that to get the shatters, or even just get these aggressive pins into Bambi to get him out of position where he can't really escape without that speed.
Yeah, and the MTD I called right there is not necessarily Bambi's fault. It's just resources. You're dedicating that Mercy to your Pharah. So that's one less resource in terms of support that Bambi has. Bambi has Immort, but that's it. You have Nate with Immort and speed. They realize Bambi doesn't. If Bambi is playing a hair out of position, he's a dead man because you have that speed you can push on him. Nate, if he's a little bit out of position, that's fine. He can play more aggressive because, man, I overextended. Lucio's going to taxi me back a little bit or push me back with speed while Baptiste heals me. He has that speed and heal. Bambi only has heal right now, which in a game like this where both teams are clearly wanting to push momentum, speed is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people also might be, who are playing a lot more in Tier 3 than Tier 2, might be shocked about that, but that is the huge reason why a lot of Tier 2 players and Tier 1 players recommend that Lucio, because, like you said, the heal is great, but it's kind of one-dimensional in the other day when you can't get out and you can still get easily melted like that.
Yeah, Ryan lacks a lot of things in his kit. I mean, he had, obviously, decent shield. He just puts out decent damage whenever you're close, but that's the thing. You have to be close outside of Fire Strike. So if you want to really run that Ryan to effect, you have to kind of have a Lucio with him. That's why you see a lot of people, a lot of higher players favoring this Orisa comp style or a Ball comp style or a dive over the Reinhardt, because Ryan just isn't in a great spot right now because a lot of people are choosing not to run Lucio, and with like a brawl aggression comp that both teams are kind of wanting to run on that last map, no speed makes a huge difference, as we saw with Nate just basically speeding into Bambi's shield and shattering before he could realize what was going on. So it's a very tough situation here for Spellbound Tengus. Do you kind of just have Bambi pretty much only play somewhat of a shield bot style because he has to play much more passive because he doesn't have that speed, and you keep the Mercy on Pharah? Or do you maybe have Distress Switch like a Doomfist here? Do you try the Pharah with no pocket and give Bambi that speed so he can match the aggression against Nate? Because it's just really putting Bambi at a disadvantage right now that he's not allowed to play the same playstyle as Nate. So either Bambi has to recognize that and play a lot more passive, or they have to give another resource to Bambi, because it's been very clear out of Eternally Feeding that if they're not running dive, they're running this brawl style where Lucio and Nate, so where in that situation I believe it was Chubb and Nate, are going to go to your spawn door at any chance they get, which can still be effective even if it's not necessarily the meta comp right now. I mean, you saw in the TFC versus KD game as well, I believe Jag did it fairly well. Ryan aggression is still very good. So if you can set that tempo with the correct resources, it can work. So it just has to be decided between Spellbound and Tengus, where do they want to put their resources at this time.
I mean, that's honestly why I would like to see Spellbound to go over to a ball comp instead of the Ryan. That the resources don't be put into the ball as much as the Ryan. However, something interesting that I just realized this just happened. So we are seeing Butt come back in for the support over Nat, but Master Link, one of the most well-known DPS here in Oasis, going to the off-tank role, taking place with Rabbit.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, if you're Eternally Feeding and you see this swap, I think you still push that Gary, I think you still push that Chubb and Nate pressure there, because I think obviously Butt and Nat both very good Baptistes, but I believe Butt uses his cooldowns too aggressively in terms of trying to get those highlight plays, as well as when in separation, Nat was using it kind of passively, try to help her whole team and not necessarily selfishly using those. So currently, if Butt uses Immort poorly or uses the Amp Heal poorly on the side of Spellbound Tengus, Bambi's even more of a dead man than when he started. So Bambi and Butt really have to be on the same wavelength here, and maybe even throw Link on a D.Va here to give Bambi more of those resources to D-Matrix him out, or Bambi's going to just keep having issues getting any value.
Indeed, no swaps coming in on the side of Eternally Feeding. They've just given their ready, so I'm assuming that means we're going to see something very similar coming from Eternally Feeding here on Ilios. Now I'm there just to see what Master Link plays, because you said like the D.Va, sure, but like usually if you see someone like Master Link come in, like you would imagine maybe like Zarya or maybe it might come out instead, because he's usually known for that hit scan mechanic.
Now arriving at Ilios.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see, because you would think that natural DPS ability translates best onto like a Zarya or a Roadhog here, one of those heavy DPS tanks. But I almost honestly think if you're not going to run that Lucio and you're going to keep the same comp, you have to run a D.Va to help Bambi, because Bubble only blocks so much and it's on a long cooldown. D-Matrix can block more and is on a considerably shorter cooldown, and D.Va can boost into the team and then back out pretty quickly to make that space for Bambi. I think the keys to victory here for Spellbound is obviously keep allowing Distress to do Distress things, but enable Bambi. Bambi has to be enabled in some capacity to make this work. If you're on the side of Eternally Feeding, they're running Winston, but I don't like this. I think you've seen what Nate can do on Ryan. I think your win con here is you put Chubb right there holding hands with Nate on Reinhardt and you just run at people and let what happens happens. I mean, I think you want this speed into Bambi. As you've seen, he's being forced to play more passive.
Yeah, you definitely do want to see it legit. Not gonna be Troy on the Bastion there for a minute. Gonna be going to be Somber. So we're going back to that 6-man that we saw before. And I gotta say, I gotta agree with you, Toast. I'm not a big fan of that being off the Ryan here.
Yeah, I think 6-man's going to struggle harder here because, as you see, Distress is going to have these open sidelines. This is the best Pharah map in the whole Ilios setting. So Distress is going to carry on this point if you allow him. So I think you have to force your advantages other ways, and you're not doing that here as Distress gets 2 picks. And this is going to be, they're going to take first point, get some cap here, but you're not going to hold it.
It's not only Distress, also it's also Meru going to be going on to that Widowmaker, a pick that actually favors him quite well in certain maps. And here on Ruins, Widowmaker is just absolutely one of the best DPS picks we have. And you see there, Meru just getting a 2K, opening it up there for Eternally Feeding. Cap, however, I will say, one good thing about Eternally Feeding here, they did get the cap on the point. Gonna get a solid 22%, gonna get a bit of stall Yo-Yo. Go get Fire Strike though, quite quickly. However, that 27% could be pretty okay if they can rebound quite fast here on their next attack.
Yeah, you saw them come back from the depths of defeat on Control in Map 1. So I don't necessarily think it's impossible here, but I think it's very tough for them to not acknowledge they should try to keep forcing the main tank advantage you have here against on the map where Distress can do the best things on Pharah. However, though, Distress trades his life for ult there, and it could be a big issue for them. As you do see the big follow-up here by Eternally Feeding, and that's just off the back of, I think, Distress feeling a little bit too confident in trying to barrage a team that didn't, I mean, Shield is going to block that, D-Mage is going to block that, and he just eats most of it, so that's going to be a pretty quick flip back here, and you would imagine Eternally Feeding is going to take the advantage here in terms of cap before the side of Spellbound can touch.
Distress is, Distress has been doing that quite a bit though. Like, he's been going for these aggressive garages where he can easily DM by just pushing in, and as you said, as you both saw, I should say, has not paid off. Ball's coming in from late, but it's not going to get anybody. In fact, they're just going to walk right past it. They're going to walk right in, and more keeping Bambi alive, but he's so low. But we'll be able to get back to the team, however. Meru, though, getting isolated by Chubb, getting booped into oblivion. It's 5-5 still, but with Link going out of the mech, I think that's still going to be a quite comfort win for Eternally Feeding.
Yeah, and the big thing here is they got 2 ults off of the side of Spellbound Tengus for just a Coalescence. And Coalescence, you can build almost playing AFK. So you use the second ult here, used by Sombra, but I think this is going to provide you another probably teamfight win as Bambi's just getting booted everywhere.
Beautiful hack there coming out from Loki. After kind of canceling the barrage, Yo-Yo does fall to it, but he's a fast carry, so he will be able to get back in time for this teamfight that's going on. And Eternally Feeding just pressing the advantage, Bambi by himself, getting so low, but gonna pop the entire trade to keep him up with that boop. Coming out from Nines, and the pressure on it, but gonna make it so difficult to keep Bambi up here. Yo-Yo getting the max pulsar on a Link, and yeah, I think that's looking like it's legit. Gonna solidify this map win with hacking Meru. That Shadow from Bambi not gonna mean much in the end. And Eternally Feeding, they're gonna take the first point here.
Yeah, it's almost like Nate heard us say that we'd rather him play Ryan. He goes, hold my beer, watch me play Winston. And just played it very well, really excelling on this main tank here. And if you're Spellbound Tengus, I'm a little nervous here, is that is very clearly, outside of the possible boops for Well, is the best map for Pharah on, in my opinion at least, on Ilios. Since you do have Well coming up, so that boop possibility is there. That's pretty much the majority of the value Pharah is going to get here, is you can hide in cage left or on coast right. So really looking like it could be in the favor here of Eternally Feeding, as it's really playing away from the carry of Spellbound. However, though, they do swap to this ball, so less resources for Bambi needed. So not against Nate staying on this Winston here, as you're not going to have that Ryan v Ryan battle.
Bambi does work for the ball, which is, I think, was absolutely crucial for this team. They're going to run stress on this bar. However, but on the Moira, it's going to be quite interesting to combine with that Wrecking Ball. Those two characters, you don't really go well together. You usually see like a Zen or a Ana with the Wrecking Ball. But the Moira, it's going to make Bambi's journey a bit more difficult than it usually would be. But have to go back, like you see here, get those heals. The stress, continue to do the spam, but Mara's already down, getting isolated by the dive. Bambi using those damage shield, but he's already at 1 HP. It's not going to be enough for him. And Charlie Frowen just getting an absolutely confident cap there. And now, I'm going to have to agree with the toast. I am extremely worried for Tengus.
Yeah, and I think the bigger thing to realize here is the low amount of healing on the side of on the side of Spellbound. If you make Butt use all of his heal, you have only solo target healing and orb. I mean, Moira can do great burst healing, but if you dive her and force out a lot of that healing, they're in a bad spot, especially now you see Burst can have to babysit 2 birds up there.
Alright, dive on 2. Bambi, he's going to have to use that Fortify so early and fast. Without the Fortify, he's sitting duck. Yo-Yo just cleaning that one up. However, Yo-Yo might have did something a bit too far, close to the sun. He can take it off with distress. Back and forth right now, but with distress gone instantly once again. I think this is an instant reset for Tengus, and just once again showing how fast Eternally Feeding have adapted to this bar. They are not even caring about it. They're just walking past the Macwhip play from Distress's Far like it's nothing.
Yeah, Bambi switched on to the Winston here. I've been rough on Bambi all night. Bambi's a very good tank. I don't think this is necessarily his fault. I think there's a lot of resources being put into Nate to allow him to succeed more than on the side for Bambi, as Bambi was just on that Orisa, and Orisa with a Mercy Moira is just pretty much cannon fodder.
I would have to agree, both poles being built and popped. However, Bambi, Bambi and Link see so much pressure onto him, they're going to be taken out quite quickly. A Cole from Felicia seeing the value. And now, here we go, last team fight coming in, and Tengus, they're going to have to pull a miracle out here.
Yeah, no ults here because of the late swaps, because of the pressure they've been applying on the side of Eternally Feeding. It's the last fight with no ults. You can maybe build Tracer ult here, but that's about it. You run into 3 ults here, EMP being the biggest, and Primal and Bomb can both stall.
That's a good start. Distress gets the kill on a Chubb. That is one guy down. Second one going to be Yo-Yo Mero taking him down. A huge deficit now gone for the side of Eternally Feeding, and Spellbound can finally get a capture here on Well.
Yes, but big takeaways here for Eternally Feeding. Distress not on Far anymore. Distress had to swap that Tracer to help touch. That is great for you. Secondly, you lost that fight only using 1 ult, which is the first time we can say that about most teams tonight. About both teams tonight. So you have still 2 massive tank ults on the side of Eternally Feeding, and you're going to have that Coalescence coming up pretty quickly, and you're going to have Pulse Bomb. You lose Chubb here early. That's fine. They're at 25%. You invest nothing here. You just go back to spawn. You let this happen. They still have to win 2 or 3 more fights before they cap this point. You just have to take it for a second. So if you're Eternally Feeding here, you're feeling good. You do swap off, forego that Pulse Bomb. Not a bad call with this counter dive Reaper here. I think you just play patient here. You maybe let legit get some poke here to maybe build up like an EMP combo, as that is, I think, going to be the big game-changing ult. But more or less, you have to play for it. Once a pick happens, you get in there. You let them blow ults.
Link gonna throw the bomb in with for the initiation. Not gonna get much, however, it makes space for Distress to get to this backline, and it's effective. Distress fights, please! Primal Rage coming out from Nate, trying to fight something. Bambi has not popped that Primal yet. I think he wanted to get a bit more aggressive into the backline before he pops it. Link gonna take out his counterpart there, and that is looking like a solid team fight win. Tengus it's looking like it's realistic for him to actually get the win here on this map on OwO.
Yeah, Tengu coming in here, final fight, looking very good from them. They have momentum. However, on the side of Tengu, you only have Primal. Not necessarily a game-changing ult. On the side of Eternally Feeding, you have Bomb. Could be game-changing. You have Moira. Could force the issue with that. And you have EMP that could be coming up here pretty quickly.
Primal out from Bambi. He is pushing away, please, so far away from his team. He gets him. Bambi, perfect juggle coming out from the main tank on the side of Tengus. Tank style plays with the juggle. It's still winnable on the side of Eternally Feeding, however. 2 go down, Bambi and Meru. However, Distress, Gary, these old guard core, this team has been here forever, holding the garrison over Tengus. They want to take this map away. Get the solidified map win, a point win, I should say. Beat comes out from Chubb. He's trying to stall this alongside his Moira partner, and it looks like it might be doable. Link goes down. Distress falls alongside that. Totally beating. They're still in this. Oh my goodness, man. We just get the kill. Please, but the EMP. That makes Gary almost basically his wall right. He's getting taken down too. Oh, I can't believe it. It's looking like a totally beat. Might have this. The touch does come in. Yo-Yo though, solidifying the win there, and Eternally Feeding. Clutch it out with the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, what a weird final fight that was. Kudos to the support line there of Please and Chubb on the side of Eternally Feeding there, really providing that stall, knowing that you have both your DPS ults coming back and both of your tank ults within 60-70% range right there, so possibly buildable in another fight. So they knew, listen, we're going to invest our ults here, we're going to make ourselves live, but if we can stall for 5-10 seconds, we have big ults coming up, and that's what happened. They came back in, EMP came back in, you had Blossom coming back in, you get a couple picks there, and even if the fight's still prolonged, you had Nate, who's at like 80% to Primal, and you had the Diva player there, 9, that was, I think, about 80-90% to Bomb.
It was all in the cards once that EMP came out. Now, going into here, after this, we can now see MVP noms coming from both sides, and potentially also see interviews. I would not be surprised to see Eternally Feeding. They usually go with the interviews, but Tengus, we'll see. Usually most teams that lose, they don't like to do interviews, but it is Bambi, so I guess we'll wait and see for that.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was a great game for both teams tonight. Definitely close. Never once was there really a map necessarily that was unwinnable for either team. I think every map pretty much went to the very end there, and unfortunately just Control seemed to play more into the side of Eternally Feeding's comp, which will happen whenever the main carry, as anybody here that has seen this game can attest, was distressed on that Pharah. Pharah, not the best Control hero, especially on the 2 maps we have this week in Oasis and Ilios. So Eternally Feeding had to mentally know that, listen, if we can force this map 5, we have the upper hand in terms of comp going into this matchup here with Distressed on this Pharah going into map 5. They win Ruins. Ruins is massive for Pharah. So after that, your confidence had to be soaring if you were Eternally Feeding, because Pharah doesn't get a lot of value, especially on Lighthouse. That goes to the final map of map 5. If Eternally Feeding sets up on that point, I mean, Pharah can poke in and out, but she literally has to get into your face to hit those barrages, and Nines was doing a great job at the end of the night there, just throwing D-Matrix straight into Distress and saying, listen, you might get my mech, you might get my main tank shield, but I'm going to trade your life for it, and that's what happened.
Indeed, I mean, I feel like also the confidence for Eternally Feeding, like you said, after they won Ruins, one of the best Pharah maps on Ilios, shut up by 100%. They had that full confidence going in. They knew they could pull it off there on OwO, and they quite confidently did. All right, so Nom's coming in on the side of fellow Tengus. Bambi coming in saying he's going to nominate Legits and Chubb, who are on the side of Eternally Feeding. Kenny coming in saying he's going to nominate Bambi and Distress for MVPs. Which now means now the fact that we've got both MVP noms, we can now start the discussion of MVPs. And I'll let you start, Toast, because I feel like I already know what you're going to say for Tank.
I mean, I mean, so you have to fill me in here on the MVP. It's been a while since I've done it. So do we pick from their group of what they've given us, or how does that work?
Okay, so MVP noms we do not have to pick. We do not have to pick from those. And also now, as I know this was when you used to commentate, you had to do like 1 from the losing team, 2 from the winning team. Now you could do 3 from the winning team, or like 2 from the losing team, 1 from the winning team, for example. So it's a lot more freedom now for MVPs.
Gotcha. So tank-wise, I'll just start off with tank here, and then we can just go on your opinion on tank as well. My Bambi played fantastic with the resources he was given. I do not think Bambi being nominated as MVP is a wrong thing at all. Mentally, as a main tank player, I would have went mental after map 2, not having a Lucio and them having a Lucio, or running 6-man. So Bambi, huge kudos to you mentally for staying in this game and being as effective as you were. However, I think Nate, just an animal tonight on tank. Honey Biscuit's a close one for me as well, as she played fantastic on the off tank, but I honestly think Nate solidified it for me on Rialto when initiated that spawn hold, really held super, super close, and then just the rest of the map really just providing those momentum shatters. Whether they were incorrect or not when he did them, he was keeping the tempo up for his team. So Nate, in my opinion, would be the tank pick for me.
And I am in full agreement with you, Toasty. I mean, Nate was a bit quite sure on map 1, but even on map 2, which Tengus did win, Nate was starting to pick up, and throughout the entire game, he was starting to just capitalize on the lack of Lucio, going in aggressive, getting these clutch pins, and even sometimes clutch shatters. I really think Nate is the definitive main tank here tonight when it came to both of these teams.
Absolutely, and if I'm a team watching this game and I play Eternally Feeding coming up soon, I would mark Nate down as a possible issue. Because aggro Reinhardt sometimes don't always work, but Eternally Feeding did a great job putting resources into him, and he was very dominant tonight. So definitely 100% an agreement that Nate is our tank MVP.
Now, going for DPS, I just gotta get it out of the way that I really do believe Distress deserved the MVP there. He was, sure, he did get a bit overzealous on map 5, some aggressive barrages that did not pay off from the end, but for a majority of this game, basically throughout all 5 maps, in my opinion, Distress was kind of the winning clause for Spellbound Tengus when it came to most team fights. Yeah, no, I mean,
I would find it hard-pressed for anybody in this lobby or watching this to argue with us that Distress should be DPS MVP. The dude was a freak on Pharah. They just were an animal. And even the aggressive barrages, I'm not against, because I think they knew that they were the win con for their team going into this with that Mercy. They were dedicating a lot of resources to the Pharah, so they knew they had to make plays. So, definitely not against what they did towards the end of the game, and I think they performed phenomenally on Pharah all night, especially when stuff was thrown at them. I mean, OwO on McCree, and you had Legits, you had the Torb coming in from Legits on Eternally Feeding as well, that was just also providing that extra pressure. You had Nines marking them as Diva towards the end. Like, there's a lot of resources thrown at them, and they made it work, so 100% in agreement that Distress should be the DPS MVP.
Alright, then, now moving on to support. I think this is the most debatable one of the 3 for majority of people, so Toast, I'm going to let you kick it off here.
Okay, so I'm torn between 2, and I think the one that we don't give it to definitely deserves an honorable mention at the least. So we'll start with the side of Eternal Feeding, Chubb. I mean, I think the whole support line on the side of Eternally Feeding played well. I think Please did extremely well, especially on the Moira towards the end there. But Chubb working in cohesion with Nate to really extend that advantage that they had in resources in terms of speed was instrumental to the victory here for Eternally Feeding. So I think Chubb especially also made some massive DPS plays on Lucio, realized that, okay, like, it's just me and one other person here. I don't do a lot of healing. I'm not going to be able to keep them up. I have to pull my gun out and do some things here. Like, I have to be the DPS Lucio, and he did it well. So Chubb would be my pick for them. And on the side of Spellbound Tengus, Nat would be my choice, and I think it's very close between the two. Nat, more of a sleeper MVP pick here if you watch, because not in the kill feed ever. I think their windows were fantastic on map 1, but I think they were the support the whole time on Spellbound Tengus. That was the only thing that could negate the main tank advantage that Eternally Feeding had. Their immort placements were fantastic in terms of trying to use them to keep Bambi up when Bambi was getting pressured. You saw it fantastically all night by them, and that's why I think obviously not as flashy of a support. You had Chubb getting the kills with Nate running in there, but I think just the pure ability and knowledge and usage of your amp heal, your window, and the immort on the side of Nat for Spellbound Tengus to just try to alleviate all the pressure Bambi was getting on him definitely would put them in my MVP discussion as well. I think Chubb maybe a little bit more, just because of the end result was, I think, directly a correlation between Nate and Chubb working together. But I would be remiss if we did not give Nat at least some sort of honorable mention for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you fully. I mean, Chubb, I feel like I'm gonna go with Chubb because, like you said, the end result, and I feel like it just solidifies the MVP for Chubb. But Nat is a player that I think a lot of people, including myself, had some question marks when getting picked up for Tengus here. They were a 2 or 3 player that joined on DP last season, and they kind of joined mid-season, and it's honestly been kind of interesting to see Nat grow and develop as a player for all her time on DP, and now even on Tengus, her efforts really show, specifically on the Batiste, the hero that she is mostly known for, and I really think I have to agree that an MVP nom for Nat, or not MVP, I should say, honorable mention for Nat should be 100% alongside the Chubb support MVP.
Yeah, if I didn't know the league and know that Nat was a tier 3 player, I would not have looked at her performance tonight and think she was anything less than a mid-diamond player with her abilities. Definitely a higher tier player, in my opinion, is what she performed as tonight, holding down a lot of the stability here for Spellbound Tengus. Really, really impressive performance out of her. I think she's definitely a player to watch on the side of Spellbound, especially if they're going to keep doing these Baptiste Mercy comps, where Baptiste is going to be the crucial aspect to that team comp. I think that's definitely a player that people need to look out for moving forward in the season.
Yeah, it's going to be 100% that people are going to look out for. But at the end of the day, it really depends if we see what we see, but Nat be played on in the future, because we might see more, because Nat does have like the Ana also in her hero pool. And I'm very curious to see what Spellbound is going to use her more. Because right now we only saw the BAP coming from her, but I would assume after future matches we're going to see more coming out from Nat. All right,
absolutely. So we're in agreement. We have Nate for tank, Distress for DPS, and then Chubb for support, and then honorable mention for sure to Nat.
100%.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
You're in full agreement, Toast. All right, so there we go. Again, KDB, our wonderful host, getting that posted for us. Thank you very much.
I am extremely efficient. Thank you very much.
All right, so we can do interviews. It's up to you, Toast. I know you haven't commented in a while, but we do interviews now also if both teams are down. It's up to you though if you want to conduct that with them.
I mean, if people want, I mean, I'm definitely willing to partake in it with you if there's people who want to be interviewed for it.
All right then. Okay, I'm down for it. Down to do it for it, and so let's get that going then. Now we're just gonna wait to see who joins, and I just want to say quickly that Tengus is a team that, you know, even when losing this game, right, going under 2-3 here, I still think that this team is going to be a top 3 contender constantly throughout the season. They show their strength to a recently rebuilt Eternally Feeding roster, and I'm very curious to see if they run anything different next week, or they're going to continue this forest style that's going to make them unique to most tier 3 teams.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely am curious to see how meta shifts as we move on throughout the season. What both these teams look like. I mean, by no means can I look at either one of these teams and say, if this game was ran back 10 times, one team would win 9 times out of 10. Both these teams extremely evenly matched. Could not have been a great a better match to solo for today. It's the only match. I believe it deserved the spotlight. It'll be definitely something that a lot of teams look at that we're curious, is Eternally Feeding going to bounce back after losing so many people? Is Spellbound going to be competitive after picking up so many new pieces and really having to make them force together? I think both these teams, especially as the season moves on, much like everybody else, and these synergies happen, that both teams will be very scary towards the end of the season.
Oh, most definitely. I can imagine, might be a bit of an early call, but I can imagine these teams being some playoff finalists when it comes to when those couple months come and go. All right, so we have gotten our interviewers, I should say, coming from both sides. So Kenny is coming in for the side of Eternally Feeding, and Distress will be coming in for the side of Spellbound Tengus. So now he's got to wait for.
To join first.
Let's do a. Actually, Toast, do you want to choose?
Either one is fine with me. I guess flip a coin. I'm anxious to talk to both of them. Kenny, especially as one of the head guys for the winning team, but then Distressed on just talking about the Pharah and stuff. Either one, flip a coin. I'm excited to talk to both.
All right.
I will pick Distress first. There we go.
All right. Now, as we wait, it's time for my. Yeah, wait here. I was gonna say it's my favorite. Oh, apparently Distress cannot join the invite, but it's time for my favorite part of the day, which is pulling questions out of the air under 5 seconds.
Well, I think we do have Distressed in here now. I believe. I don't know if they've joined the chat yet, but there we go. There we go.
All right.
All right, hello, Distress. Welcome to the the post-match interview. Me and my commentator here, Toasty, we're gonna of course shoot you a few questions and then we'll let you go on your way. So, do you want to start with the questions, Toasty?
Yeah, I guess my first thing, first off, insane performance on Pharah tonight. I don't know if that's your main, but if it's not, you should just definitely make that like your one trick at this point. It was insane.
Yeah.
Moving into, the later maps, was that your guys' strategy? Just kind of wanting to keep forcing that Pharah advantage as there's not a lot of hit scan necessarily ran most of the game on Eternally Feeding, or was that just something that naturally you're like, I feel like this is my best here, I feel like this is where I can make the most impact on?
I feel like it's a little bit of both. In my opinion, I thought on pure hit scan, they aren't that good. That's gonna sound toxic, but on pure hit scan, I've been with that team before. I don't feel like they're powerful, right? But they're really good at the dive, of course. So it was just the plan.
Yeah, and then just kind of touching on that, I think going onto the dive, they were running that, obviously pressuring Bambi a lot there. Was that kind of was that a concern of you guys? Was that something you were kind of calling out? Like, listen, I know they're gonna pressure Bambi. I'm gonna do the best chunking out I can there of those tanks as they pressure onto you and try to follow up on these direct hits, or?
Yeah, we tried our best to help Bambi, and when he needed it, sometimes he died and we still won the fight. Sometimes he died and we all got rolled. Their Somber play and their dive play in general was just really good tonight, I believe. I believe that our team could have done better. There were certain things that could have been better, and there's just a lot of new team vibes from our team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys added a lot of pieces, I believe, that were from a million different teams going into this season, so it'll definitely be exciting to see you guys here move on throughout the season. I think you guys definitely showed tonight in an opener all the great pieces you have, that once that synergy happens, that it could be scary. So anything you have, Tempo?
Yeah, it's just I do have one question. So you mentioned how the players are internally feeding. They don't really have that good hit scan presence. So this far comp you guys whipped out, was this something that you guys planned on the side of Spellbound? This is something you planned against Eternally Feeding specifically, or is this a composition you want to start running with a meta that's kind of not really pushing towards hit scan after the hit scan nerf?
I think it's a little of both. There's not a lot of good hit scan on a lot of teams in this league. I'm just gonna say that. I think there's Perts and J Money. I think highly of, and not much else that I think. Oh, Yarl's fucking correct. I love Yarl. And but otherwise, I don't think there's really much good hit scan in this league.
All right. So I mean, you asked over most of the questions I thought of, Toasty. So I'm out of questions, unfortunately.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Distress, for joining us here post game. Again, fantastic performance by your team as a whole, but you specifically on Farah there, just trying to put the team on your back and doing a lot of 1v6s, it seemed, especially on Hollywood there. So it's exciting to see what you guys end up doing the rest of the season once this synergy comes together.
Thank you, and also thank you for casting our games. Hope you have a good
Not a problem.
No
You
problem.
too.
All right. So now next will be Kenny, so the resident interviewer for all the versions of Eternal Feeding there has been in Oasis, as I like to call them.
The one constant of eternally feeding, no matter what their name be, and name ends up being NA alt management, throwing for content, eternally feeding, always will have Kenny.
Most definitely. Here he comes, and there he is. Welcome, Kenny, to the interview. As you probably have been here a billion times already, as me and Toasty called you, the resident interviewer for Eternally Feeding.
I can't trust him to do interviews, so I'll just do it.
That's fair enough. Well, I'll just kick it off here. First off, great job by you guys tonight, especially coming back there in some of the later maps, being down 2-1 after Hanamura. Distress really kind of doing his thing there on Farah for a while. So I guess my first question for you guys is, well, for you specifically, is going into these maps, it did seem like you were kind of wanting to stick to that 6-man as opposed to trying to maybe turn to a hit scan hard counter against Distressed on Farah. Was that something you guys had practiced? Like you knew that you were a strong 6-man team, or was that just not necessarily a lot of comfort yet in the hit scan role by your DPS?
I think I said this in like Overwatch talk. I do think I think hit scan is like it's the weakest it's been in probably the past year and a half or so.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So we definitely haven't been practicing much hit scan. But we also knew Distress was going to play a lot of. He was going to play a lot of the fair. We knew that, like, going in. He used to be on our team, obviously, so we knew he was going to play a lot of the fair. And it worked map 1, and so that did give us the confidence that the comp that we were running was good enough. But then maps 2 and 3, we got rolled. It wasn't working. And also, another thing, Gyro, which is Nine's best boy, that was another reason why we didn't really feel we needed to play hit scan, because we thought she would be able to shut down the Pharah on Diva, and so that was our thought process.
Yeah, I mean, going into the later maps, it definitely seemed like you guys hit stride and were really successful, especially on Rialto, and then very, very strong start on Ilios, shutting down the Pharah on Pharah's best map. Gyro did do a fantastic job later in the evening, really just face tanking a lot of those barrages that came in that Distress was looking for the big plays. So I guess my only question for you moving forward before I toss it to Tempo is so most of the game you ran the Lucio with Nate on the Reinhardt. Was that something you guys acknowledged that Bambi didn't have? So it was something you wanted to exploit with the aggressive tempo of Nate? Or was that just kind of naturally Nate and Chubb's play style of I'm going to touch your spawn door and see what you do about it?
Well, we knew that, like, with them having the pharmacy with the Reinhardt, and, they're not going to have the speed boost that we have. And so, yeah, we thought that would work. And it was working at first on Hanamura's second point. It was working. It even worked on Rialto first point, but then the Widow got a pick on Rialto, and that kind of just shut it down there. And on Hanamura, yeah, I don't know what really happened with the Deadeye speed into them, and then Bambi got off a huge shatter. But yeah, we kind of thought that the Lucio speed into Bambi on the Rhine, we thought that would be our win condition if we can't stop the fair, because we weren't able to stop the fair, so we can't stop the fair. The next best option is just to speed into them and take the 4v6, and hopefully we win.
Well, you guys did that to great effect, especially after losing a lot of your players in the offseason too. Spellbound Tengus, kind of somewhat of a half rebuild for you guys. Definitely looked very impressive, especially going into the last maps. Definitely excited to see what you guys can do moving forward in the season. I don't think Eternally Feeding is someone anybody should sleep on. And then now Tempo, anything that I missed that you'd like to pick up on?
Yeah, it's just kind of going off of what you said about losing all your players. So Kenny, that's something I want to actually ask you about. So to give insight to the people watching the stream here, so you lost like a lot of your players who went to Tengus, and you had to do this huge rebuild. And I just want to ask, like, what was your process of doing that, and like why did certain things happen, like Chubb going over to the support, or picking up, or were you by scouts from these players like Nate, who did a fantastic job here tonight in our game tonight?
Nate is actually an old friend of mine. He was like on one of the earlier teams that I had in like Tier 2 CGL. And he was actually an off tank / support player at the time, and he's transitioned into main tank. Chubb capped out on tank, so he can't play tank. And even if he was eligible, he would still be too high because we can't really run 11s at the moment. So yeah, Chubb capped out on tank. Yeah, we lost like 9 players, and we lost like 4 to Tengus, and then we lost Cthulhu. We lost Big O. We lost Reindeer. We lost Chubb on and off roll now, so I count that also as a loss because he was really good last season.
Most definitely.
And we also, at first, I thought we lost Gyro, but then she recently was like, I see you're struggling, so, I'll come back and play for you guys. It's like, I see you're struggling with off tank, so, I'll come back and play for you guys. And so that was really appreciated also. And she's an 8, so that's, like, even better. As far as, like, scouting, OwO, I think a lot of these people were signed after like one scrim, honestly, because at one point I was kind of desperate, but they were, in my opinion, they were still really good. Like Luxy, OwO, Yo-Yo, Polish, which is Please. I thought they were all really good after their first scrim, and so yeah, I was. I think I got kind of lucky also, to be honest.
I didn't recognize that was Polish. Please.
Yeah, Please is Polish. Yeah.
Oh well, that's. He did Polish did a great job here tonight, and that's all the questions I got.
Yeah, well, thanks, Kenny, for joining us post game. I'm excited to see what you guys do the rest of the season.
Thank you guys for casting also.
Not a problem.
Of course.
Have a nice night, everybody.
Hey, you too.
You too. All right, so I think that does it for our game here tonight. Quite a nail biter for if you're a fan of either side. I gotta say, Toast.
Yeah, definitely a close one, but that's just been kind of the trend, I think, for our first week of the Tier 2 games. You had a 3-1 to C11 over Blix, but it's still a close game there. Cosmic and Thanks for Coming, both with the 3-2, another close game, and then Eternally Feeding Spellbound 3-2. So I think it's just a testament to how close here early season the Tier 2 teams are, and that's really anybody's game. We don't have necessarily a team stepping out to a massive gap here.
Most definitely agreed. It's going to be a close season by none compared to the past. It's going to be interesting to see which teams will, eventually close to the end, a couple months from now, we'll get to that end point. Well, time to wrap this up. I was your play-by-play commentator, Tempo.
And I was your color commentator, Toast. Thanks for coming, guys.
Take care, y'all.
Have a good night, everybody.